And I hope while everyone's been waiting, you've had a moment to read our acknowledgement to our friends and neighbors at the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh and Musqueam. And just a couple of announcements before we get, I've called the meeting to order before I ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Just like to share with you, if you haven't heard, we did our change of command ceremony last week with the retirement of our Chief of Police, John Lowe. And we welcomed our new Chief Constable, Tom Wolf Van Gutenberg, who's been with the district for 25 years. And I have every confidence, as I know the police board does, that we have an excellent new police chief. And so if you see him, yes, I agree. Tom, that's for you. He really is a great guy. It was a very competitive undertaking, competition for the job, but he won it. We also this evening, council made a number of committee appointments. And so I'll just say at this point in time to all of the people who have put their names forward to volunteer to the community, our most sincere thanks. Also very pleased to announce that our West Vancouver Municipal Employees Association ratified our labor agreement with them. And so we have now settled with all three of our labor unions, and we have they're all 3-year contracts, and very pleased with that outcome. And one last little note, because we all just think summer's here and let's go have a beer. I want to clarify a little bit of confusion around the Batch, which is that popular little spot in Ambleside. Council did last fall grant the owner of that establishment a 5-year extension, but because it becomes a permanent installation, the Vancouver Coastal Health requires that the owner have a permanent sink. And that's actually more complicated and expensive, and that has been a big cause of the delay. But we are hoping that they will be open this Friday. So I know it takes forever, but I do want to emphasize we should bring water. That's Vancouver Coastal Health. So if I may, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda. And unfortunately, there was an accident on the highway, so our Paralympic athlete who was going to be here this evening is unable. So I'll ask that item number 3 be withdrawn. Councillor Cassidy.
Mr. Mayor, may I just add a comment regarding the chief, the new chief?
Absolutely.
Okay. As vice chair of the police board, I just wanted to let you know that our search for new chief of police went very wide and out of province as well. And so we definitely got the best candidate, no question about it. But also there's always this idea that we cannot attract good talent to West Vancouver because of all the issues we have with bridges and so forth. I want to let you know that was one of the prerequisites for the position. You had to be prepared to move to West Vancouver, and every candidate was prepared to move to West Vancouver. So thank you.
There we go. Thanks very much. And can I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Councillor Cassidy? Oh, Councillor Watt, would you like to make the motion?
Yes, you were going to ask if there was any urgent business to be added.
We're adding under new business. We'll be doing that.
We'll do that after? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Most.
What?
Oh, sorry.
Through the mayor, if any new items are to be added, it's to happen during the approval of the agenda.
Under the new business, even now?
During approval of the agenda, and it will come up for discussion under new business. So it needs to be approved by council. Any additions to the agenda?
Okay. I thought we would add it at that time. Councillor Watt, Councillor Cassidy.
Okay, I recommended that the July 20th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be approved, as the mayor has already noted, withdrawing item 3, and we'll be adding to new business, section 765 inquiry, North Shore wastewater treatment plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Any discussion? We'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thanks very much. We'll move to item number 4. I suspect there's a few people here tonight on that item. And we're going to have a presentation. Ms. Lawler, thanks very, very much. Thanks, Pascal.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here this evening with Kyle Dion, who is the owner and principal of New Line Skate Parks, Inc. Kyle and his team have been working round the clock on a very tight timeline and have come up with incredible new design for the Glen Eagles Adventure Park. We're going to take you through it here this evening. The location for the proposed 3 new pickleball courts and skate park is at the Glen Eagles Adventure Park, which is located between the Fire Hall and the Glen Eagles Community Center. The district and New Line undertook a public engagement to gather input on the proposed pickleball courts and skate park improvements. An in-person concept workshop was held on June the 3rd at the Glen Eagles Clubhouse, followed by an online survey that was open between June 3rd and June 7th. Feedback received from the engagement process directly informed the proposed design, including the court layout, the fencing configuration, gathering spaces, skate park amenities, and the full site amenities. Kyle is going to take us through the design.
Thanks very much.
Jill. Mr. Mayor and Council, thanks for having me here today. I'm the owner of New Line Skate Parks, as Jill mentioned, and we've been sort of building skateboard parks and pump tracks and other recreational amenities for about 25 years. And we're very familiar with this site because we originally built that bowl back in 2005. And we also did the retrofit of the Ambleside project a number of years ago as well. So very excited to be back, be the successful proponent. And we're here to design and build the pickleball courts and fix up the old bowl and add some new skate features. So what we're looking at here, you can see, this is sort of a view of the courts, looking sort of from above the golf course, if you will. The rec center would sort of be to the right and the bottom, and the fire hall would be to the top of the page. We have 3 courts, 2 that are facing sort of north-south, and then 1 that is facing east-west at the top there. Entry, there'll be an entry plaza coming off the parking lot, and from that point, you'll sort of decide to go into the new skate zone or a pathway that sort of goes along what will be a fence, a taller fence separating the skate zone from the pickleball courts. As you work your way along that pathway, there'll be shorter fencing sort of internally and taller fencing up to about 10 foot around the exterior of all the courts. When you get to the center of the 2 courts that are facing north and south, you'll see there's a bit of a plaza space there. There'll be some picnic tables and just benches, picnic tables, umbrellas, a gathering place, and then a pathway, a little bit skinnier, but a pathway that'll work its way all the way up to that court that's on the north. We worked quite extensively with the community at the open house to get some feedback on the placement of gates and fencing and height of all that stuff. Some things to note here, there'll be sort of 2 entrances, exits at each court. Actually, on the far north court, there'll actually be another secondary entrance off the Spirit Trail. And yeah, relocating the water fountain that's on site there and upgrading that to a bit of a better water fountain. And then looking, this is sort of a view, I guess this would be from the fire hall parking lot, looking out over some of the new skate features. And so when we're looking at sort of the north end of the park, it was a little bit tighter. So we had to get pretty creative with the space that would be left over by having that one court sort of go in the other direction there. And so working with the community here, we decided to put a smaller, we call it a mini ramp. And that's sort of a smaller half pipe that's a lot smaller than anything that you see in the current bowls, which were designed at the time to be more sort of intermediate or advanced style terrain and for bikes and things like that. So this is an area that'll give younger kids and beginner, skateboarders and scooter riders and bike riders a chance to try something, easier entrance into that so that they can try things out, build the basic skills that they need, and then take that into the bowl. So it's a really good opportunity to build some progression within this sort of zone that's immediately in the foreground here. And then we got some what we call street or plaza style terrain that makes sort of an L shape around the existing bowl and along the pickleball courts here. And what you'll see there is sort of some small boxes, ledges, railings, a lot of flat open space, and that's more of a popular style of skateboarding for what we call street style skateboarding. And then in between there'll be some planting and some seating and benches and things like that.
This slide summarizes the estimated cost to complete the project. The estimate is divided into 3 main components. The first is the general site, which includes demolition, site preparation, drainage, the plaza, seating areas, and the remaining design work required to deliver the project at a cost of $603,700. The second is the construction of the 3 new pickleball courts, including the courts and fencing at a cost of $391,000. The third is the new street-style skate park and refurbishment of the existing bowl, creating a complete skate facility for users of all skill levels. And the cost of this is $462,240. Below that, you'll see costs that have already been invested in the project, including the design, the geotechnical, and noise studies that informed the final concept. When all of these components are combined, the total project cost is approximately $1.5 million. While this represents a significant investment, it delivers a complete recreation facility that addresses the longstanding need for pickleball courts and enhancing the existing skate park for the community and for a variety of ages. As part of the project, a geotechnical investigation confirmed that the existing fill is not suitable to support the new facilities over the long term. To ensure the site is stable and durable, the design includes removing the existing fill and replacing it with an engineered structural fill and installing a geogrid reinforcement beneath the site. This work is essential to provide a solid foundation and minimize future settlement and maintenance issues. A significant portion of the cost relates to the disposal of the excavated fill. We are currently working with New Line Skate Parks and local partners to identify a nearby location that could accept the material. If we are successful, we expect this could reduce hauling distance and lower the overall project cost. We will continue to explore these opportunities as the project moves forward to maximize the value while ensuring the project is built to the appropriate engineering standards. This slide summarizes the funding that is currently available for the project. The first category is a previously approved funding that remains available for both pickleball and skate park. A portion of this funding has already been used for the design work, leaving approximately $486,000 available. The second category is the existing capital funding that staff have identified for reallocation from completed or under budget projects. After accounting for funds that are already committed, approximately $230,000 remains available. Together, these funding sources provide just over $715,000 that can be applied to the project. This significantly reduces the amount of new funding required and demonstrates that staff have looked first to maximize existing capital resources before requesting any additional funding. Additional funding required. This slide compares the total project cost with the funding that is currently available. The overall project cost at approximately $1.5 million includes the design work, technical studies that have been completed, along with the construction of both pickleball courts and skate park improvements. After applying all the existing and reallocated funding, there's a remaining funding shortfall of $741,000. The remaining funding would allow the project to be delivered as a complete recreation facility, taking advantage of the work that's already been completed and avoiding additional costs that can come with delivering the project in phases. Staff are recommending that the $741,230 funding gap be addressed through two existing funding sources. The first is the community amenity contribution community serving reserve with a proposed allocation of $432,230. And the second is the community works fund with a proposed contribution of $309,000. I'm going to pass it back to Kyle to take us through a couple of options that were explored.
Yeah, so as part of the consulting process, we were asked to look at three different things. One was roof options or potential cover or partial covering of the site to protect it from weather. Also noise, would there be an impact on noise on the surrounding residents? And also could there be some noise mitigation between the pickleball courts and skateboarding? Just to kind of, keep some of the sound from bouncing back and forth between the two user groups. And then lighting. So this slide here is talking to the roof options. We worked with Carskadden Architects and sort of explored three different options. I think what became clear very early with all the options is that this is a very difficult site from an engineering perspective to build the size of the footings that you would need to build a significant structure, and some of the setbacks and requirements, especially with the existing bowl and the tight interface between the bowl and the sidewalk that's there. So, and the goal was to create a cover that, would actually provide rain protection as well. So you're, essentially building a building with partial sides or rain screening. So it's a significant structure either way. The first option was, option A there to cover one of the courts and part, the mini ramp area to the north there. This would have, required, I think all three of them would have required some significant sort of diminishment of the play value on some of the, having to move the courts around and make the skate park smaller to fit the footings in and things like that. And then also with the cost, the smallest option there was estimated around 1.4 million. Going all the way up to 3.7 million for, significant cover over the whole 20,000 plus square feet. So I think as we work through that, a lot of the comments we got from the public was it's just not worth it to spend that kind of money to have partial cover like that. So I think the recommendation was, not to move forward, but we did explore it as asked. Lighting. Lighting was next. Again, we explored a lighting system that would be sort of sport style lighting. And again, just, due to some of the, we're trying to pack a lot into a very, very tight site. So when we started looking at, where can we put the footings and where would the poles go, and can we get the right light coverage to make sure that there's no shadows in the bowl and on the courts and things like that. And so, although it is possible, it's very tricky. And again, we'd have to move some of the courts around and have to do some, likely put some of the poles within the skate plaza, which would have, reduced what was possible to do there as well. And the cost that was coming in, we talked to Hydro about a new power drop, I think by the corner by the fire hall. But working with the lighting vendors and a local electrician, the estimates are coming in about $375 to up to $450 to provide the right lighting levels for this site. So it was also not recommended to move forward with lighting. And the acoustics, so the acoustic engineer, they did some studies on the local residents on the other side of the golf course. And it was found that they are far enough away, so we're not worried at this time about the impact on those residents. However, we did, on the recommendation of staff, we are going to make sure that the fencing is designed to a standard that could put noise panels on them in the future if it was determined to be an issue down the road. But we don't think that, the consultants that did the work don't think that that's going to be an impact on the neighborhood. And then when we looked at the cost within the park, the height and the structure of these panels, they would have to be clear, very thick panels. And it was determined that the amount of noise that would actually, be impacted with the cost, it just wasn't worth the quotes that were coming in to build that significant wall, as well as lots of concern about graffiti and stickers and scratching and maintenance, and if the panels ever got broken and things like that. So again, that was explored, but it was determined, and we got a lot of these comments at the public workshop as well, that it just didn't make sense to spend that kind of money to try to prevent a little bit of noise. We're also looking at, probably heard lots of comments and we got lots of questions about a phased approach. So while anything is possible always, to either build one facility or the other and come back later and build the other one would create some significant challenges, and probably increase the cost. So when you'd look at the area that would be left over, you'd have to have some sort of surface treatment on it, whether that's grass or gravel or something. Either way, we have to demolish everything on site. We have to do the site preparation, the demo, and kind of just get the whole site development, which is a significant line item, needs to happen no matter what. And then, installing that temporary surface and the drainage system and everything, and then coming back later, you would likely, to safely execute the construction, because now you're going to be in between an existing bowl and a pickleball facility. Let's say if it was the skateboard park that was built later, you'd likely have to shut down the whole facility to safely, navigate all your equipment in that tight little area to make it happen. So it is possible, but it's just, cost escalation, remobilization, and, just some surface treatments that would probably have to be removed at a later date.
Last June, Mayor Sager, you asked us to look at the land across the street, which is BC Hydro land, as a potential site to build upon. While it was found as unsuitable for pickleball courts, BC Hydro has returned back to us and said that they are open to the idea of having a pump track built on this land. So they have given us the go-ahead to carry on to the next phase. And so we are asking to advance the project, allocating $35,000, including $25,000 to retain new line to prepare a detailed pump track, and $10,000 to complete the required site survey. Using the same consultant that has designed the Gleneagles Pickleball and Skate Park will help ensure the two facilities are integrated and complementary in character, and provide a cohesive user experience across both sites. Should council decide to proceed with the 3 pickleball courts and the skate park this evening, New Line is prepared to start detailed design tomorrow, with the groundbreaking happening sometime later this summer, with the potential opening of this new park set for spring of 2027.
And there's the recommendation. Thank you
Correct.
very much. Thank you. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Watt, please.
Thank you for the presentation. This is very exciting. It's been a long time coming. Couple of questions. So the lighting is obviously a non-starter right now, and you stated that the lighting would have to be put in at this time, but would there be room at some point down the road, should there be funding available for a solar option that would work at some point in the future?
Kyle, is that one for you?
Sure, I can answer that. Solar is a little more expensive and is difficult for maintenance and stuff like that. So if we were to proceed without putting the base infrastructure in for a wired solution, then you would probably be the only option that would be left in the future would be solar.
Okay.
But from research that we've done on other facilities that are similar, it would be likely quite a bit more expensive, and there'd be some, at this time, I know the technology is advancing fairly quickly,
Yeah.
but there'd be some concerns, especially regarding battery life and stuff like that in the off season and winter times and things like that. But
Thank you.
But,
Such a shame, but, and in the discussions about fencing, Councillor Thompson and I had the opportunity to walk around the golf course with our local golf pro and others from the golf course. And there was discussion of wayward balls. Are wayward balls at all coming? Yes,
Not
golf
balls.
balls. Wayward golf balls, do they approach the existing skate ball right now, or has there been an identified issue at this point?
Through the Merida Councillor Watt, we are exploring the feasibility of adding additional netting in the area to ensure the safety of everybody on the park.
Perfect. That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, please.
On the subject of outdoor lighting, is there any opportunity to attach to the fire station a lighting source or the community center lighting source to project from their rooftops or building external lights that could add some semblance of light to these facilities?
Kyle?
Because they're near enough.
well, the rec center is quite far away, so I don't think that would work. I think I think there is significant lighting that's on at the fire hall for most of the night, and you might get a little bit of spillage, but in terms of like the lumen study that they did of, providing, I guess, consistent lighting across the site and with the bowls and the skate ramps and stuff, so it has a proper level of lighting and it's not creating the shadows. You would want, that's why their recommendation was sort of 6 to 9 poles that were strategically placed around the site to, kind of drop light specifically to eliminate shadows. But it's something that could be explored for sure.
Mhm.
We haven't looked at that though. We looked at specific lighting on site.
And if I may build upon that, currently when we did the electrical study to ensure the capacity of the Glen Eagles Community Center or the fire hall to provide electrical capacity, neither have enough draw. So we would have to draw a special, which is why that extra BC Hydro line that would need to be drawn specifically for the park. They do not have enough electricity to share with this project.
And would that be expensive?
It was $12,000, I think,
$12,000
is
for a
what
pole.
Hydro recommended to drop a pole.
Would it be considered $12,000 well spent or $12,000 down the drain?
It would be $12,000 to get us electricity, and then we would have to provide the lighting. So that lighting here on this cost is roughly 375 to 450. It's important to make sure that when we have lighting for sport courts, that people can see their feet and move safely. As Kyle mentioned, if we have shadows on the court, we set ourselves up for people falling or tripping.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Gambioli, please.
Well, first of all, congratulations to staff for, finding the money in this proposal from a bunch of different sources. That's pretty creative, what you're suggesting, and working with the stakeholders, because this has been a difficult path, that we've been on for, I don't even know how long. But the one thing I'm a bit curious about is the next possible phase. So the pump track, you're talking about an amount for design, but do we have a ballpark for the actual construction of the pump track?
Thank you. Ms. Lawler?
Through the mayor to Councillor Cambioli, our previous estimations for that, we have not done any specific studies on the land, so we would have to figure out some of that geotechnical, but the early preliminary studies were around 275 to 300,000.
Okay, so we need to keep that in mind for next year's budget. And, all right, thank you.
Thanks very much. Any further discussion? Are there any members of the public who'd signed up to speak to this? Could I, Kyle, thank you very much, Ms. Lawler. Make room for any member of the public who wish to address council.
Thank you, Mayor Sigur. We have 3 names on the speakers list. The first is Ed Pelak, followed by Stefan Ruckert, and the third name is Lynn Palmer.
Thanks very much,
Mr.
Mr. Pilak. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of Council. This is Jake. My name is Ed Pelak, and I'm a resident of West Vancouver for the last 38 years. On behalf of West Van players and many other pickleball players in our community, we want to express our support for this project. We also want to thank the mayor and councilors and staff for the collaboration we brought us to this important decision. Tonight is an opportunity to approve pickleball courts that benefit the community for many years. These courts are more than pickleball. They create friendship. They have play for all ages and strengthen the community, which would be around Glen Eagles and maybe further. So to say thank you again, a lot of people don't realize that each member of council, the mayor and council, met with the executive of West Van players, and they listened to our concerns. And we really appreciate the time that you spent with us, because you people are working very hard and have a lot of other more important issues. So we appreciate the time and effort that each and every one of you have given us. So West Van players ask for the approval of the construction of 3 pickleball courts in this project. We would also like to express a concern. Pickleball has had its share of unfortunate delays. We've waited a long time for these pickleball courts. So we'd like to maybe bring up the issue of asking council to consider an interim solution. And that we're proposing that the lower tennis courts at Normanby Park be converted temporarily until the Glen Eagles pickleball courts are constructed. They're not being used very much. We see people doing tennis lessons there, which you're not supposed to do, but because of the lack of use. So we're asking that as a consideration. We also have some problems up in Normanby, and Jake is the expert at Normanby to be able to tell what those problems were. And the reason I bring it up is because of a safety concern. Karen Kay fell in the spring and broke her wrist because a root was sticking out of the courts. A lot of people can't get up to the courts because of knee problems. Kay has to play at Cypress because it's really hard for her to get up. And there are some people that are older that can't, like Sandy, who presented last year. He's in his 90s, and it's very hard for him to get up to the Normanby courts.
At your time, sir.
Thank you. Now I'll take Jake's time. So Jake?
Mr. Pilak, I would say that you did share the concerns of the Normanby courts and the surface, and I have had the opportunity to discuss it with our park staff. We are looking for potential ways to fund it sooner, but worst case scenario, it goes into the 2027 budget. And it is recognized by staff, something needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you. Could I ask the people from pickleball to stand up and show who we are?
Oh, well, you brought a few friends along tonight.
Did you
Well,
want to say something? You don't have.
Okay, Mr. Pelak, to you and to all of your friends and pickleball players, we're very grateful for all of your input and for making this sport really great in West Vancouver. And on that note, I'm going to ask Councillor Cassidy, who also loves skateboarding. Oh, there's more speakers. Sorry, two more speakers.
We have two more names on the list. Stefan Ruckert is next and Lynn Palmer.
Mr. Ruckert, please.
Hello, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just wanted to echo, thank you for taking the time to consider the needs of the pickleballers as well as the skateboarders. I am a West Vancouver resident and a skateboarder. The Glen Eagles Park is a great amenity. It was described as intermediate to advanced. I would say it strays very much so on the advanced section of that scale. And it's only missing features like we're in this updated proposal, banks, small quarter pipes, ledges, things like that around the perimeter to warm up on. And then that bowl will become used more as an amenity by all sorts of ages, all sorts of skateboarders. Right now, going to that park is a little bit like showing up at a Major League Baseball game as a pitcher and being expected to throw your, top speed pitch from the mound. It's just not something that is inviting or probably safe to do. I think the smallest transition in that bowl is about 5 feet. There's nowhere to really roll in. There's coping. So any users need to be already at a level of competence on a skateboard that will allow them to actually use the amenity. What was shown in the updated proposal will do, really good things for getting the usage of that space up and really bring a ton of life from a ton of different age groups and skill levels to that park. So just wanted to express my very strong support for the proposal that was shown.
Thanks very much. And hey, thanks very much. And you may have, by the show of the signs tonight, a lot of people you could be instructing on skateboarding. And the next speaker, please.
Lynn Palmer.
Ms. Palmer, thanks for joining us this evening. Let me guess.
Okay. Evening, Lynn Palmer. Oops. I'm on the West Bend Players Executive. Firstly, as Ed did, I want to acknowledge all the wonderful, enthusiastic pickleball players in our community who have come out tonight and are here for this project. So let's do one more wave of our paddles. Spent all day printing these. Come on.
They're so quiet tonight.
And then we have a number of players that really had hoped to be here tonight, but they're unable to be here in person for various reasons. And so I would like, in recognition of their support for this project, to share their names, for which I have the consent to do so. Here we go. Maggie Thompson, Monica Crow, Brian Crow, Dana Taylor, Jennifer Dom, John Sharp, John Blair, Matsuko Blair, Marcy Kurtz, Valentina Koch, Diane Montgomery, Philip Sheps, Pavane Razavi, Shirley Chan, Grace Wong, Dana Cameron, Leslie Dark, Nahid Abedi, Hamid Reza Rahmanian, John Brody, Catherine Fairley, Selena Chun, Tim Chun, Bruce Andrews, Mitra Kiamanish, Paul Palmer, Diana Wong, Debbie Gaskin, Alistair Gaskin, Arlene Bennett, Margaret McLennan, Wendy Winkler, Reg Allen, and Mike Leslie. And this is really who we were able to contact in the last day or so. So there's probably quite a lot more that would have added their names to this list. And I just wanted you to be aware that there's a lovely group here tonight, but there's also an enormous group of people that they just couldn't be here tonight, and they really had hoped they could be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Recognize just about every one of those names. Thank you. Okay, anybody else signed up? Failing that, I'm going to ask Councillor Cassidy to make the motion.
Thank you very much. Do you want me just to say
It
as
can be
written?
as read.
Okay, but I guess I'd like to say a few words. So I first came on council in 2014 and I had never heard of pickleball. I didn't have a clue what it was about. But I did know that there was the issue at 29th Street with the pickleball. I affectionately refer to them as pickleball people. I have my world, there's tennis people, there's pickleball people, and now there's skateboard people. And so that is how my world is almost divided. And since then, the sport has grown significantly, and I am exceedingly happy to have these courts be built out there. I'm very happy for the pickleball people. And when all this controversy or such was coming forward, the skateboard people sort of said, well, what about us? And so I went down to the skateboard park and had a look around all about skateboarding. Because I thought that bowl out there, which was never used, was, well, what is it about? So I did learn about it, and I did learn about skateboarding, and I'm also extremely happy for them. I'm very happy too. I just sound like such a happy camper, don't I? That for the western end of the community. I grew up in that neck of the woods, and as a child, our major occupation was making our way to Gleneagles Golf Course, getting all the balls that were in the bushes and so forth, and reselling them the next morning at the gates. And we got from A to B by going along the railway tracks rather than Marine Drive. So this is a real boost to the western end of the community. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, so I'm very happy for all entities. Thank you.
So the motion is made as written and
Yes.
Councillor Snyder. Thank you. Any further discussion? I think it's a great night. Councillor Thompson.
You want to give your accolades first?
No, I just want to thank everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a tremendous process. I think we're all really happy to be here and happy for all of you. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I did want to raise a question that was triggered by our young skateboarder. You know, we learned when we started learning about the skateboard park back in the day, the first thing we learned it was a very advanced pole, and that's why it was underutilized. And I suspect the new design optimizes what's there as opposed to reconstructing the whole thing. And a few comments you made just want me to remind staff to keep exploring ways to improve its potential, even if it is just preparing that warm-up area. You know, we're investing quite a bit in this, and I just want to make sure it's as fully utilized as it can be. But otherwise, I was asking the mayor if we could, as a joke, I'll say, no, we reject it for fun, but no, they didn't go for it. Anyway, congrats.
No, this is great. And again, through Mr. Pilak and all of the members and all of the people that participated in the open house, and to Kyle, because I understand you did a fabulous job in bringing great ideas together. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Contrary? Motion is carried. Pickleball is coming and skateboard. There you go. I bet you'd all like to leave. We'll take a 2-minute round. We'd love you to stay for all the other exciting issues. No. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll now move to item number 5, and we have a presentation. Mr. Hawkins, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening to you and all members of council and members of the public. I'm joined by Senior Planner Winnie Yip, and we'll both be available for questions. So this is in response to Bill 25, SMU, or Small Scale Multi-Unit Housing legislation. I'll begin with some background, recall the legislation, and then I will spend more time describing the approach or the recommended approach to comply for 4-unit areas, establishing a new 6-unit zone, and conclude with next steps. So in terms of the background, these are just some of the milestones. SMU was introduced through Bill 44, and I think the two most important things about the legislation then was that it only applied to a relatively small number of West Vancouver lots because it did not include zones that provided already for single-family basement suite and coach houses, but that the new requirements also included significant ministerial authority. So the district was placed on notice for not complying. The ministry can impose zoning, so West Vancouver did comply August 2024. SMU was significantly expanded 2025 with a deadline of June this year. And the material thing here is that it now applies to lots that do provide for single family basement suite and coach house. So now this is over 10,000 West Van lots, and there are the same and in fact expanded ministerial powers. So council did receive a working approach from staff March 30th, which council received but did not direct zoning updates at that time. So into the last month or so, the minister wrote to West Vancouver, and I would characterize this as an affirmation of the legislation, both in terms of the requirement to comply, and also, and this is a quote, that non-compliance can lead to an override of our zoning bylaw. Council scheduled a special meeting June 23rd and directed us to come back, which is what we're here for tonight, obviously, with a zoning proposed amendment that is consistent with the working approach described in March. So council's familiar with this map. The most notable thing is the orange yellow. This is an area which is required to provide for up to 4 units. In red, up to 6 units and no ability to require off-street parking. There are less than 3 dozen lots, which are hard to see because there's so few, which are required to allow up to 3 units. There is a note on the map here that these lots actually already do allow for 3 units, but because of the way the legislation is written, the forms of housing cannot be limited to single family, basement suite and coach house. So the requirement here is just to make sure there are other ways to achieve the number of 3. So for example, a triplex. I've mentioned provincial authorities. So the province has what they call site standards. These can be imposed and they must be considered. So these photos here are examples of projects built to the provincial site standards or under construction. As mentioned, the legislation does require us to consider these. So as registered professional planning staff working for West Vancouver and limiting my comments just to housing considerations, the effective density or FAR of these projects is between 1.5 and 2.4 FAR. I would characterize that as apartment type densities, and the basis for that characterization is that our West Vancouver's RM1 and RM2 zones contain buildings of between 1.75 to FAR, so right in the middle of that, which has led to almost a third of our housing stock being in apartment forms, which contrasts greatly with only 5% in missing middle. And I understand the intent of the housing legislation to be to enable what we often call missing middle, so small scale multi-unit housing. So these densities, which include wide site coverage, if applied to West Vancouver, which has many very large lots, would simply lead to very large buildings, which if divided into 4 or 6 units would be large and therefore more expensive homes. We have considered these site standards, but the approach I'll be describing is to enable options that actually reflect our local housing needs. And these again are documented in our public community profile, for example. So things like downsizers who already have large homes who may wish to stay in the community in a smaller form of accommodation, or for example, to attract missing generations, young families, young professionals, and so on. So the amendment in front of council, it is governed by the 9 working principles that formed the working approach. It's very much intended to be a made in West Van response. So for example, we have many lot patterns, different geographies, different contexts. Other regulations, zoning always has to work alongside with, for example, tree management, slope management, watercourse management. The legislation doesn't allow for the kind of community engagement that would typically have accompanied this, but staff have over the years had many conversations on the topic of housing with our residents. Most recently, a survey on this topic last year as part of the OCP update. And so to the extent we can, we have embedded what we understand to be the community's housing priorities in the proposed zoning. So things like people's interest in townhouses, strata coach houses, and so on. In terms of the mechanism, for the 3-unit area, or 3-unit lots rather, it's just about expanding the forms of housing. So I won't address that in the PowerPoint. For the 4-unit areas, it's about keeping the existing zones, but making amendments to allow for 4 units. And then for the 6-unit area, because it is a more definable geography, the recommendation is to establish a new specific zone to accommodate this. So for the 4-unit area, you can see the subject lands of the zoning and proposed zoning amendment on the map here. It's obviously a very broad area. So referring back to the principles of the working approach, because it's broad, neighborliness, always important, particularly important for something which is essentially district-wide. So our experience is that people tend to really notice if their street changes, it's because of the front yard setback. If their neighbor changes, it's how close it is to their own property in terms of side setbacks. So maintain those, as well as maintaining the overall 2-story plus basement scale. And then also because it's such a broad area, we don't want this legislation to lead to an erasure of differences because it covers the whole district. So there are differences between neighborhoods. From a zoning perspective, what helps maintain that, the fact that there are different building sizes and different minimum lot area requirements. So both of those would also be maintained. What would change to enable SMU would be a modest increase in site coverage and in height within a 2-story plus basement scale. Second principle, also on the theme of friendliness, if you like, and also being user-friendly, massing matters. So upper story only being 75% of the story below in terms of massing, and then making it a lot easier to calculate height in terms of where grade is deemed to exist. So image left is the existing zoning bylaw. The proposed bylaw would move to something much more simple, user-friendly, easier for homeowners, their architects, and ultimately for staff to review and process applications, which does have a customer service impact. Third principle, respecting rights and use of property. Part of this is also a simplification. The image on the left shows the existing way of calculating density is convoluted. Many things are excluded. You then may qualify for a bonus, etc. The proposed approach is to move to an all-inclusive FAR of 0.65 for the entire lot, and then the control on that to be not more than 0.45 for a unit with freedom to allocate remaining floor area as any owner chose fit, for example, a coach house, with existing buildable floor area and sizes and lots of records protected to avoid future nonconformity. Flexibility, an important theme, perhaps something which could get lost is this is optional, right? Like the legislation is about compliance, but there's no requirement to build the 4 units. So the renderings on the left there, nothing would stop anyone from building a house with or without a suite, with or without a coach house. It's really about adding additional options. So some examples on the image on the right, things like duplexes, triplexes, strata coach houses. The only restriction on tenure would be for secondary suites, which is governed by the BC Building Code and has been an important form of rental housing in West Van. And then the final principle for the 4-unit area. We already allow 2 residential buildings on most lots. We would keep that other than for large lots. You can see on the image on the left, there is a possibility to introduce 3 residential dwellings on large lots, whereas on a standard size lot, there would be overcrowding. But also to maintain the relationship between primary and secondary forms. So to support legibility, we probably would see more coach houses, but for it to be clear that there is a primary building, if you like, and then secondary building or buildings on large lots. In terms of the 6-unit requirements, so the subject lands, this is proposing establishing a new zone which would apply to the area On the screen here, this reflects the 9th principle from the working approach. Because the 6-unit area, the provincial requirement is a series of radii from bus stops along Marine Drive. It would lead to, if adopted, literally very carved up blocks, very asymmetrical streets. So you'll see, starting left of screen, a regularization of the provincial requirement so that it's always an intact block, and the streets would always be symmetrical. So the transition would always be across a lane, which in West Vancouver has the advantage of also being downslope. The one exception to this noted on the map is lands east of 11th Street. So if you just look to the right of 11th Street, you'll see Leyland Park. And then from there on, it's more of a sort of jagged tooth outline. We have not made any changes to the legislative requirement here, simply out of recognition that this area is also subject to a provincial directive, and council has directed a local area plan for this area. So over the course of next year, in particular, there'll be a major project, which is the correct mechanism to take a holistic look at land use change in this area. So at this point, it's really just about meeting compliance for those lands east of 11th Street. Within this new boundary, establishing a new zone, a lot of what I've said for the 4-unit area would also be reflected. So again, it's about permitting up to 6, not requiring it, with the same options to achieve that, duplexes, triplexes, the same principles of neighborliness in terms of front and side setbacks, controlling top story massing. The adjustments that would be included in this zone are necessary. So it would have to be a higher density that reflects the fact that there's existing higher density duplexes in this area, but with similar controls in terms of how much FAR could be allocated towards a single building or a single unit. Setbacks would need to be reduced at the rear only if there are 2 principal buildings, and there are lanes here, so that is something we could accommodate. Site coverage modestly increased. And then the proposed zone does also include the requirement for at least 1 affordable rental should an owner or an applicant wish to pursue the maximum 6 units. This is something the Local Government Act enables, and that staff recommend would be included in the zone. There are many OCP policies which already speak to allowing 3 stories broadly within this area. Moving to zoning, staff's recommendation in the zone is that a 3rd story be included, but it be governed and managed only if there are 3 or more units in the proposal. So image left, that shows what you could do under this new zone, and it really shows what you can do today for the duplex zones. If you look at the image in the center, it's the same volume, it's the same square foot, but by allowing that 3rd story, you actually have a lot more green space, which has the obvious example of more vegetation, but also would allow for off-street parking. We cannot require off-street parking, but we would expect most developers, builders to want to provide that. We want to mitigate any impact on streets in terms of demand for new parking. So that additional story does help from a site planning perspective in terms of creating space for parking. And then should someone wish to build the full 6 units, as mentioned, at least 1 would have to be affordable rental. And then the final principle for the 6-unit area, this is responding to housing interest in townhouses and also builds upon my previous comment around enabling, because we can't require parking. So should 2 lots be assembled, higher density and underground parking excluded from those density FAR calculations so that it's not penalized to try to incentivize it. So this could lead to image left, a strata complex, townhouses, underground parking. And again, if someone did want to pursue the maximum 6 units, that would be 12 across 2 lots, so at least 2 affordable rental units. So in terms of next steps, this is a summary slide. I won't speak to every number on it. It's more for reference purposes, but in orange, those are the provincial guidelines I showed photos of. To the right of screen in green, West Vancouver's existing zoning standards, and you'll see within blue for the 4 and 6 unit proposed approach, that we have moved towards the provincial guidelines, but not in a uniform or literal or unconsidered way. So bottom of the screen, for example, the provincial site standards are actually silent on rental. We do think things like basement suites or affordable units in 6-unit areas are important. The province recommends 0.5, so half a parking stall per unit. We're not suggesting changing that. We are a more car-oriented community than others in the province, and we are also seeking to enable parking where it cannot be required In the 6-unit area, we have increased lot coverage, but not to 60% as the province recommends. We do have rain, we have slopes, we have creeks, we have trees, etc. We have increased height, but only in the 6-unit area, maintaining 2-story scale in the 4-unit area. And then FAR density, perhaps the most important metric. It is moving up. It is an enabling approach. I think it's important for the province to understand that and to hear that, but in a much more nuanced and guided way in terms of how floor area would be distributed within buildings, across more than one lot, should they be assembled. I wouldn't describe these images as precedents, partly because we don't have that much missing middle. And obviously these were built to very different zoning standards, individual site-specific applications, and so on. But the attempt here, in contrast to those photos I showed of the provincial site standards earlier, is to tailor this legislation to the extent we can to the kinds of housing that we've heard people are interested in, and to the extent we can, draw inspiration from some local examples. So something like the Rush House, roughly 0.65. So something that someone could build something similar to that in the 4-unit area if they wanted to. For the 6-unit area, something like Hollyburn Mews, single lot, mix of duplexes and coach houses. And then townhouses, if lots are assembled, would come in at roughly 1.2 FAR without underground parking included in the FAR calculations. There are obviously many implications to this legislation. Firstly, acknowledge obviously the June 30th deadline has passed, so the minister could issue 30-day notice, could override our zoning. At time of speaking, staff have received no indication that has happened to date. And what West Vancouver can obviously do, should council direct this to process to continue, we can indicate that bylaw consideration is in process. I've heard many members of this council speak to the benefits of converting existing housing stock into multi-units. From a zoning perspective, the bylaw in front of you would remove that impediment. So this would be a case of council having done what they can, and the ball really being in the province's court, and the impediments would be to do with the building code, which we don't control. Going forward, should council proceed, staff would review, manage, monitor other regulations that work alongside zoning, development financing, environment, utilities, etc. We would expect this to be built out incrementally, but that's something obviously the district would need to manage and stay on top of. And there would also be additional planning work. From a customer service perspective, it's obviously it would be a new zoning schedule. We always prepare illustrated documents. I think the bylaw is roughly 70 pages. It's all words and numbers. We do prepare illustrations to facilitate owners and designers' understanding of that. We'd also come back to council with a new development permit area for the 6-unit lots, and we would need to rescind the existing duplex guidelines. They would be obsolete, obviously. And then perhaps above all, the most important message, any of council's regulations are living documents. So, they're always things you can manage responsively and adaptively over time, should the province not impose zoning on West Vancouver. So a Made in West Van bylaw would have that inherent feedback mechanism. Every time someone applies for something, staff get experience administering the bylaw. Every time council, the community sees a new building, then obviously zoning can be amended over the coming years, in response to how it's landing on the ground. So recognizing that, staff's recommendation is that council schedule consideration of the proposed amendment for September 21st and give notice of that consideration. A quick note, this is one of the instances where the legislation does not allow us to have a public hearing. It is explicitly prohibited. Staff do recognize this is complex, it's broad, it's technical. What we would do, subject to council's direction, is update the webpage. People can get in touch with staff. I think we've had more than 150 interactions with the public to date, and we would also prepare a red font, black font copy of the zoning amendment so people could more easily understand what's been added, deleted, revised, and so on, and make ourselves available throughout the summer to those who may have questions. Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins, thanks so much. I just have to say, you truly do an exceptional job. This is bad legislation, but you've come up with something that probably is the best we could do. I'll turn it over to Councillor Lambert.
Well, thank you, Mayor Sager, and thank you, Mr. Hawkins, for the presentation. I mean, this is a good sort of made in West Van approach to Bill 25 compliance. And so I will, support the recommendation to go forward. One of the things that I would like to see, though, is in response to all of the words and numbers, the highly technical nature of this thing, would be to actually develop some schematic design, on a couple of typical lots in both the amended RS zones and also in the new RG4 zone as well too. And the purpose of that is to provide some indication of what does this really look like. I mean, we do have the little diagrams in the report so far that indicate sort of bulk massing, but really what we're talking about are some potentially very significant impacts on our entire single family stock. So it is worth the effort between now and September 21st to invest a bit of time in doing a test of these amended zoning regulations so that the public can see what they might look like. So I would like to be able to add that requirement to the recommendation this evening.
Mr. Hawkins, is that something you could help us with?
Through your worship, Councillor Lambert, the provincial timelines deadline, which has already passed, are very restrictive in terms of going through procurement, purchasing, finding a pot of money to spend, to actually expend on that kind of work. I think what staff could try to do is see what we can do in-house or try to bring something back to council, but there isn't simply the time to go through a kind of external consulting process, which takes more than the time available to us.
Well, could we take that offline and see what we could do in terms of achieving that result? It doesn't make any difference to me whether it's done in-house or if there's a way to enlist some external help.
Sure, through the mayor, I think what you're saying, I think, is really well taken. We understand that, again, this presentation, very technical. I think that the level of detail is going to be overwhelming for a lot of folks. So certainly we can endeavor to try to show people what it might look like. Mr. Hawkins is right. If we kind of get into a procurement process at this point, it'll be very, very challenging to get to September 21st if we go outside. I think our best option is likely to do some work inside, try to provide the best that we can from, say, using models like SketchUp or just some basic design parameters to show folks what the look and feel of these things might feel like. If there are developers out there who are paying attention to tonight's meeting and want to offer or volunteer to do some initial sketches, we would take them up on that. I mean, I would expect that we will be seeing some development inquiries relatively soon associated with this, just asking questions like, hey, would this be consistent with this new zoning? And certainly if those developers, homeowners were open to sharing that, we could bring that back to council too. But the point's well taken. I think the idea is to provide the public with as much information as we can, representative sort of look and feel of what this could look like. So, council can gauge that input and we'll try our best to do that.
Yeah,
but I don't want to overpromise sort of the quality of scale of work in such a short period of time.
No, I appreciate that. And the benefit will accrue also to council as well as the public, because we're going to be voting on this and we need to have a level of comfort that what we're endorsing is a reasonable fit for the community. So we can take this offline and see what we can do to between now and then, and recognizing also that that there isn't a public hearing or public comment on this given the circumstances.
Thank you. And Mr. Hawkins, just because I recognize in the audience tonight, Mr. Chapman is here, who's been involved with so many subdivisions and land use in our community. And I'd be very grateful for his specific input by the 21st, if he's willing to help us with that. and any suggestions he may have.
And through the mayor, Mr. Chapman has raised some points to staff. I think they're valid and important comments that he's made. If council was interested in revising the bylaw based on any commentary that we receive through the next 2 months, we can bring that to council, and then council could make amendments to the bylaw as we move forward. So
Thank you. No, just, Mr. Chapman, if you're willing, I'd be very grateful. I think council would be very grateful. Sorry. I know it's summer. Councillor Snyder, please.
Sure, put him on the spot, why don't you?
Just
So
a bit.
Just a couple comments. I mean, I very much oppose Bill 25. There's no question about that. I suspect most, if not all of us do. The impact that it can have on our neighborhoods is going to be drastic. I think the comments that Councillor Lambert made are very valid. I think that this is extremely complex. I mean, we've seen this report in advance. We've seen it multiple times, and even seeing it as many times. And as eloquent as Mr. Hawkins is presenting things, it's very complicated. And to try and expect the public to be able to understand what was just said here in a matter of minutes is very difficult. So I think that what's really important is that, again, this is a made in West Vancouver approach. We've all seen what the province can do and may do and still may potentially do. But I think to give an alternative that allows West Vancouver to have some control and manage its own sort of destiny and its own neighborhoods and what have you is extremely important. I think that one of the other rationales and the timing of this allowing for September 21st, I mean, this is quite a bit of time now for the public to at least engage with us and be involved. I know that there's no public hearings allowed for this matter on the 21st, but I think that this gives the public an opportunity to reach out now as opposed to waiting for a public hearing, which is not going to happen on the 21st. I think that it's very important that the public does engage with us over the next several months to try and share their views and their opinions. Again, I think that we're sort of stuck in a real corner here where I don't think anybody wants to see Bill 25 at all, but it's trying for us to have as little impact on our neighborhood as possible. And I think the visuals that you just showed there, Mr. Huggins, the one visuals on what it may look like, we're talking boxes that are basically just punked in our neighborhoods, as opposed to the second set of visuals that you showed with different alternatives that accomplish the same goal, but with a much more attractive design and approach. I think it's extremely valuable. So as much as I really am not thrilled at all to want to push this forward, I'm certainly going to be prepared to second Councillor Lambert's motion here.
Okay, it's moved and seconded, Councillor Cassidy. And may I just ask, are we even allowed to have public input on this, even this discussion? No. Sorry if anybody came wanting to have public input. I think that is just fundamentally wrong. Councillor Cassidy.
This is perhaps an unfair question, but they're always the best ones to ask. So should we have a change in government, can we back out of this deal? Shall we call it deal? Can we back out of this endorsement?
We can always change the bylaws.
Yeah, three words to Councillor Cassidy. I provide this as a comment because I don't have a crystal ball. A consideration might be that West Vancouver retaining ownership of its own bylaws as opposed to one being imposed could also mean that any imposition is not protected, right, through an order in council of the province, for example, which might contain restrictions around your ability to amend your own zoning going forward. So I take it as a comment, as an unknown, as a speculation, but it could be a consideration that a made in West Vancouver response in a made in West Vancouver bylaw means you retain as the elected authority, the keepers of that bylaw. So should the Local Government Act change, as long as you act in accordance with the Local Government Act, it would be your zoning bylaw.
Okay, well, like my fellow councillors who have spoken in advance, I'm not exactly thrilled to be endorsing this, but I know how hard you worked on it. And I suspect you have given us, in fact, I more than suspect, I know that you have given us the best version of what you can, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes, very much in line with all my colleagues. This is a very uncomfortable conversation. And I think we are so grateful for the work you've done And it is complicated. And, you know, unfortunately, I know we're going to unveil some unintended consequences as we see how this fits in. And to some earlier comments, one particular one was pointed out by Mr. Chapman, not only recently, but last time we discussed this. And that is the unintended consequence of, as you're formulating to build out these sites that could fit 4 to 6 homes on it, the way you've done it, it actually takes the single family dwelling option and downsizes it by quite a bit. And, you know, I hope that because Mr. Chapman can't speak to that this evening, that we will look at that. And I know when he raised it last time, staff are going to follow up with him and work that out. So that's what all I can say now. There's lots I have to say, but I think I'll wait for the 21st. But good luck to you.
Thank you. Councillor Watt, please.
Yeah. Thank you for having to do this unfortunate work for us. I appreciate everything that you've put into it. And, you know, I didn't vote for Bill 44. I am inclined to support taking this forward to the 21st only because they have pushed us into a corner and there really is nowhere else to go. But I just wonder if you can clarify something. When I look at the map on there, my street is one of very few in the municipality that does not, that this doesn't apply to. And if you were to drive down my street right now, you would see a parking lot of vehicles all over the road. So I'm trying to understand, there's a few streets in Horseshoe Bay where a lot of it, it is covered to some extent, but mine is not, and the few streets around me. So I'm hoping this isn't the vision for the municipality, that kind of thing. So how do those streets around Douglas, Argyle, and perhaps Chatham, how do they differ from some of the other areas?
3 words to Councillor Watt. A lot of Horseshoe Bay has different zoning. As a result of the local area plan, a lot of the zones outside of the kind of mixed use center village already allow for multifamily. Therefore, they were not subject to Bill 25, which really does zero in on lots that are restricted to a house, basement suite, coach house. So council of the day being proactive in Horseshoe Bay has actually meant those streets are not subject to Bill 25.
Yeah, so based on that, and when I look at the density all around where I live and the absolute utter parking lot, when I bought there 20 years ago, there were not those streets, but there weren't the basement suites, and you know, there's the odd coach house. So unquestionably, there is far more density and I would say far more strain on our aging infrastructure. And that's just in the small pocket that I'm using as an example. So I suppose that really highlights the issues going forward because there seems to be no plan. I'm not referring to our planning department, but from the province. It seems they're working in silos. There is absolutely no long-term infrastructure transportation plan. Anyway, this makes me very sad.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Councillor Gambioli, please.
Okay, well, I just have to add my 2 cents, and I am going to disagree with everyone who has spoken so far. And I'm going to say that I don't believe at all that this is unfortunate work, that you've had to do any unfortunate work. In fact, I think if I were a planner and that was my chosen career, I would be super, super happy to have been doing this work because this is super juicy stuff. And you've done great work. And I think we should appreciate all that you've done. I think that definitely moving forward is the way to go. This is, yes, it's been imposed on us by the province, but we had the opportunity to make this decision 3 months ago. And everyone here except for myself chose not to. So we are now 3.5 months behind the 8 ball. And that's why we're working all summer to catch up. And so I'm really happy to see this move forward. And if this is approved in September, this has the potential to be a very significant change to our single family neighborhoods. But not all at once, not right away. And it will allow for new families, younger people, and smaller homes and units to be built in this community, which is exactly what we need and what we know we've needed ever since Bill Soprovich started on this council. And we are not unique, we are not special, and like every other municipality in the province, the need is to create more housing. We don't need any more huge houses, we need smaller units and more affordable housing. So staff have created very practical and streamlined zoning regulations in line with our OCP, in line with the needs of our community, and have done it in a made in West Van approach. And although it's having to be done very quickly, I commend you and I say it's about time. And I'm really happy that this is moving forward and that we have been pushed to have to do this because it's going to improve our community in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. Councillor Cassidy, please.
Well, I don't know where Councillor Gambioli has been living, but I find out that gee, I thought it was more. Anyway, that's a joke. I'm kidding. Anyway, I live in a neighborhood just down the street from Councillor Gambioli, and my street is full of young families with young children. In fact, I had to go to BCAA and get signs to tell people to drive slowly because our neighborhood is full of children. But what are they moving into? They're moving into the older homes and they're renovating. So any developer who's going to go out and buy a single family lot, they are going to transfer whatever part of that cost, if not all of it, onto whatever buildings they're going to put in there. And what they discovered in Vancouver is the buildings that they put on these fourplexes, these sixplexes, were no cheaper than buying a brand spanking new house. So the profit motive is always going to exist in business. And think that young families are going to move into some small home where they have no room to expand, no room to have gardens and so forth is, I said, rather naive. But the ones who are coming into our neighborhoods are coming to older homes. My son and all of his friends are moving into West Vancouver. They're young couples in their late 30s, early 40s, and they're coming in and they're buying up the old houses and they're having children and they're populating our schools. Now, if you say, gee, we can't, or we only have 70 or 80% of our schools filled with West Vancouverites, we don't take into account the fact that in days of old, we didn't have Mulgrave, we didn't have Collingwood. So a lot of those children are also going to private schools rather than choosing public schools. And one of the main reasons that people move into West Vancouver is the quality of the education. People move to this community because they want the lifestyle that this community affords. That's why they move, and they're prepared to pay up for it. And if people start honestly looking around at the children of their friends who've had a good education and a good job, they're moving to West Vancouver. And friends of my son just moved to Coquitlam, and they paid $2.4 million for an old home in Coquitlam. So I ask you, we're not that different. So to say that building all these, small little houses is going to change the people who are coming to our community, I disagree. It may allow the elderly to continue to live here. But again, do you want to be squashed neck and neck with your next door neighbor? I don't think so. So I totally and utterly disagree with Councillor Gambioli. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Watt. Sorry. No, sorry. No, sorry. That's not appropriate. Sorry. Councillor Watt, please.
Yeah, sorry. I beg to differ with Councillor Gambioli in that we are not unique. We actually are. We are not an interchangeable community. We are bound by the ocean, mountains, and I say this like a broken record. But again, traffic, bridges, tourism, ferry traffic, all the rest of it, and the forest canopy that we are supposed to be increasing according to our urban forest management plan. And we are a different community. We are unique. We are a natural environment. We have successfully manage to live here, increase our population, but to imply that it should all be equally spread across the municipality, I struggle tremendously. On one hand, we're supposed to be looking after the environment. On the other hand, we're supposed to be carving up all of our single family lots. And you add in flood risk, all the rest of it. And we've seen the dark side of that as well. So I vehemently disagree that we are not unique. We are.
Thank you. Incredible debate, but I'm going to call the question, and I suspect everyone's going to vote in favor. Call the question. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. It was moved by, you moved it, Councillor Snyder seconded it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did that an hour
They
ago.
did. Yeah.
Good.
No, I
Okay.
mean, the reality is this is an uncomfortable place to be in, but I'm calling the question.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Thank you. Item number 6, Councillor Lambert.
Well, thank you, Mayor Sager. This item has been a long-standing issue with me. Unfortunately, the timing of it is so close to an election. It's created some suspicions about the motives for bringing it forward at this time. So I think the better place to have the debate on the election signs is actually after the election. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to move the motion today, and I'm going to defer that until post-election, where we can have a debate with the benefit of a new election right behind us.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. There is no mover. Councillor Thompson, unless you want to move it.
No, I do
I
not
don't
want
think
to.
it's going to have any support around the table.
No. As the seconder, though, I'd like to make a couple comments. And this actually hasn't been a long-standing issue on my mind, but I respected Councillor Lambert's passion for bringing it forward. And fundamentally, I think it's a healthy and sensible conversation to have every once in a while. We've got to stand back. We've got to stand back and look at what we're doing and examine them for best practices. In during an election, it's a very good thing to sit back and say, are we spending our time and money in effective ways? So I was looking forward to the debate. It was disappointing to me to hear it so quickly demonized as the death of democracy. Because, you know, the reality is the world's changing around us and engagement is different. And sooner or later, we're not going to see signs for different reasons. And maybe this wasn't the time. But I do think it was worth the discussion. And I actually also feel that this was the more appropriate time to have the debate where we're not making it for the decision for ourselves, next council. I think if it gets punted to next term, those councillors are going to find themselves in a very compromising, self-serving position. So sorry to see it go, but I respect the decision and look forward to the debate another day.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. We don't have a motion though, so there's really nothing to speak to, but.
Well, we do have a motion
Well,
that
would you like to
that
move it?
was printed on the agenda that I think a lot of people are interested in hearing a discussion about. In fact, I think there's probably some people signed up to speak. Yes.
Well,
So,
but if I haven't got a
we're
motion, there's
not-
nothing to speak to.
We're not going to make it go away because it's been printed for a
I
month
understand.
now. So, you know, I think we should comment on it. And I think that, so I want to ask Councillor Lambert, because I didn't hear about any of this until it was on the agenda. I don't know if anyone else did. So my first question is, you know, I'm assuming that this was the initiative only of Councillor Lambert and Councillor Thompson. Is that true?
Yes, it was there. They gave
I'm
it.
asking Councillor Lambert because
sorry.
he's the mover of
Yes.
the motion. Okay, so your initiative only, because I didn't hear anything from the public. I didn't hear any consultation. I didn't hear any concerns from anybody. And suddenly this was on the agenda. So yeah.
Bring forward notices of motion that haven't had broad public.
Oh, no, absolutely. I understand that. So I'm just wanting to be clear, because there were some questions about that. So my second question is, why did you want to bring this back now? There was, you know, this came out of the blue. There was no public concern. we've discussed this in 2019, as you and Councillor Thompson know. And why did you decide to bring this forward now?
Well, just a second, am I on here? We're not having a debate on the motion. My
There is no
timing,
motion.
there is no motion, okay? So as I said in my opening remarks, it's something that's been a longstanding concern of mine, and I brought it up now. There isn't any science to why I brought it up at this point in time.
Okay, and so why, I mean, in 2018,
And
in 2018 and 2019, we had a lot of debate. We had 3 council meetings where this topic was debated shortly after the election in 2018 for all kinds of similar reasons. We then asked staff to go back and do a bunch of research, which they did for many months, actually. And they came back with really practical suggestions, I thought, which were to actually limit signs on public property to about 10 or 12 high visibility
Councillor
locations.
Gambioli, Can I
And,
come point of order?
Yeah.
What's the point of order? I'm explaining to the public who are very interested exactly what's happened in the past. Is there a problem?
Yes. There is
Is there a
nothing.
problem?
There is no motion. There is no. But you
There
need-
is a notice of motion and it's on the floor and we're discussing
It
it.
is not on the floor.
Yes, it is. There's
Sorry,
no
I'll ask
motion.
our corporate officer.
It's not been moved or seconded.
But there is a notice of motion on the agenda, which
The problem,
Yes.
if the mover and seconder withdraw.
I guess
then
no one can speak to it either.
No, they
There's no
can't.
motion.
There's no motion. If the mover and seconder withdraw their motion, there is nothing to speak to. It's removed.
Ah, okay, great.
So
Well, I guess.
it is the way it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm making a decision that there's no motion, but what I will comment on, because
Well, if you're going to comment, can I finish my comment?
you know what, I'll
Because-
let you, go ahead.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you. I'm just wanting to explain that staff have already 6 years ago been over all of this and have looked at other municipalities, comparable situations with election signs. They came up with a very elegant, in my opinion, plan to allow signage on public land in 10 or 12 different high visibility locations, which would be the only locations in the public realm where candidates could put their signs. And the signs would be limited to a certain size. And so we finally, that was the main substantive point of that report, in my opinion. And we debated that, and Councillor Lambert and myself, in the end, were the only 2 who supported that after staff had done all that work. So the vote was to throw it all in the garbage. And here we are 6 years later with the same topic, except there's no staff report. There's been nothing except, anecdotes. So I'm just curious to know why we wouldn't go back and use the work that's been done.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli. I'll just make one quick comment because we are coming up to an election, and my biggest concern is always asking people who participate in the election to clean up their signs as soon as humanly possible after. And for anybody who is running, as you know, those of you who ran in the last election, I've got a great group of volunteers who are ready to go at 8:01 p.m. and start cleaning up the signs, and we're willing to pick up anybody else's signs who wishes to have that done. No charge, get them picked up and brought back. All I ask is that everybody please be respectful of the public property and clean up as soon as possible. I'm going to move now to item number 7, the proposed permissive tax exemption. Councillor Cassidy, please.
I recommend the proposed 2027 permissive tax exemption bylaw number 5433, 2026 be read a first, second, and third time. Number 2, permissive tax exemption procedures 0227 as approved on February 23rd, 2026 be rescinded. And 3, proposed replacement permissive tax exemption procedure 0227 attached the June 22nd, 2026 report titled Proposed 2027 Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 5433, 2026 be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Thank you. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. I know Councillor Watt wanted to be recorded as absent on that. Item number 8, proposed development at 1552 Esquimalt. I know Councillor Watt, I believe, wanted to make the motions here, so let's wait for her return. Got to find her. Good to see you, Councillor. Okay. Sorry, we'll just give Councillor Watt a moment to return to the chamber. Mhm. Thank you. Councillor Watt, item number 8, please.
Apologies.
This is
Yeah.
1552 Esquimalt.
Sorry?
This is 1552 Esquimalt, which was the
Yes,
subject of a
indeed.
public hearing.
Thank you.
And,
Yep, I would like to recommend that the July 14, 2026 memorandum from the Senior Manager of Current Planning and Urban Design titled 1552 Esquimalt Avenue, response to issues raised at public hearing be received for information.
Thank you. Second, I think it's important just for members of the public to know. I wonder if Ms. McGuire, Mr. Bailey, I think we're allowed to just put out what those responses were. Could I ask you just to come forward and do that for the benefit of the public? Thank you. There can't be any public input because the public hearing is closed. But council did ask you to go back to the proponent with a number of issues. And I know you've addressed them here, but I think for the benefit of the public, if you could highlight that, please.
And through the mayor, and just for the record, because the public hearing's closed, we're not able to provide any new information.
No.
This is information that's been provided and we'll reiterate it from the memo, but just this is for the public's edification in terms of what's being
Exactly.
talked about. So thank you.
Sure. So yeah, just to summarize the issues that, the key issues that were brought up through questions, both from the public and members of council. There was a question about window replacement on the existing rental building and the timing for that. And then also a request not to have the landowner apply for a special increase for that window replacement. And then there was quite a lot of discussion about the amenity area and different concerns about the public access and then the design treatment for that amenity area. So just in terms of the window replacement, the applicant has committed to replacing all the windows prior to occupancy of the new infill building. And for the west elevation, for the residents that would be most affected by the construction of the infill building, that window replacement would occur before construction commenced on the site to allow for greater sound attenuation for that side of the building that would be most impacted by construction. And so and also the applicant has committed to not applying for a special rent increase for the window replacement. And so those commitments would be secured through a development covenant that would be required to be registered if council gives second and third readings tonight before council considers adoption of the zoning amendment bylaw. And then for the landscape area, the amenity area, after further discussion with the applicant and noting the concerns that were raised about the potential nuisance issues that could result from public access for the amenity area, the applicant has indicated that they're willing to have that amenity area be a private amenity area that would just be available to both residents within the existing rental building and the new residents within the infill building. As well, there were design concerns raised, specifically focusing on the blue recreational area. So the memo just outlines that minor changes to that would be reviewed at the development permit stage if council was to approve the development permit, and that could be delegated to the director for further review. And that review could include potentially referring the design to the planning committee, also discussion with our park staff, and then that any revisions would be subject to review and approval by the director.
Thanks very much. I think that's very helpful. Any further discussion from members of council? Councillor Snyder, please.
Discussion, I just wanted to declare for the record that being absent at the public hearing, I have observed and watched the entire public hearing, just for the record. So thank you.
Thank you. You're entitled to vote then. Councillor Watt, your mic is still on, but
Yeah. Yeah, and I also just wanted to add that I was really pleased to see that the proponent really listened to council and is, prepared to make those changes. So,
thanks very much. Yes,
Yeah.
it was a good response.
yeah.
Councillor Gambioli, please.
Well, just in general, I'll say that, staff, some of the concerns from next door, close by, residents were that there will be some pretty significant construction impacts. But there are ways to mitigate that. And I'm assuming if this does get approved eventually, staff will be, able to be on top of this in a very, very careful way.
Through the mayor to Councillor Gambioli, and again, this isn't new information. This was spoken about at the public hearing. The answer is yes. We will be on top of it. We will be implementing construction management plans and traffic management plans as part of the construction.
Yeah, okay, because it's a very, very tight spot, as we know. It's going to be the tallest building in the area. But I think my personal opinion is that the architecture of it is actually pretty sleek. I mean, it's pretty slender tower. I think that's that's a good thing for a tower, I guess. I am pleased that the applicant is not going to be applying for an additional rent increase and will be replacing the windows. And of course that the district, in other words, the residents of West Vancouver through the district will be gaining $9 million from this proposal for community amenity contributions. So that's a good thing. And I'm happy that there was much less controversy within the community this time than 6 years ago, because yeah, I guess, I don't know, things have changed, but pleasantly surprised. So I'll be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Councillor Watt, please.
Yeah, so I would like to recommend that the proposed official community plan bylaw number 4985, 2018, amendment bylaw number 5465, 2026, be read a second and third time.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. And Councillor Watt.
Yeah, and I'd like to recommend that proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5466, 2026, be read a second and third time.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Item number 9, proposed revised drinking water conservation plan. Councillor Cassidy, please.
It's recommended the proposed revised drinking water conservation plan bylaw number 4975, 2018, amendment bylaw number 5468, 2026 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thank you. In discussion, question, all in favor, contrary, carried. Thank you. We're returning the sewage and drainage regulations and a request from our Finance and Revenue Committee for a little bit more time. And staff have recommended, rather than August 15th, if we make it August 14th, it helps with the timing of everything. Councillor Cassidy, I hope you'll be acceptable with that amendment.
Yes, I am.
Could I ask for the motion then?
All right. The July 15th memorandum titled Finance and Revenue Advisory Committee request for an extension we received for information and the deadline for committee comments regarding proposed sewage and drainage regulation bylaw number 5263, 2023, amendment bylaw number 5449, 2026 to be submitted to council in the form of a resolution be extended from July the 31st to August the 15th, 2026.
Sorry, August 14th.
August 14th.
So that's a
Sorry,
Friday and it does make a difference.
Sorry, August 14th, 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Thank you. Any discussion, question? All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. And pleased to report that the Finance and Revenue Committee did review the waterworks regulation and recommended its approval. Councillor Cassidy.
The proposed waterworks regulation bylaw number 5260, 2023, amendment bylaw number 5448, 2026, be read a second and third time.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion, question? All in favor? Contrary, carried. Under new business, Councillor Watt and Lambert wish us to consider a motion regarding the North Shore wastewater treatment plant. It's a very long motion, but whatever you wish, Councillor Watt.
Okay, I wish to proceed. It's my wish. Yeah, so I respectfully request that council consider this matter as new business because significant developments have occurred since the last regular council meeting, making it timely and appropriate for council's consideration prior to the summer recess. Over many months, I have devoted considerable time to reviewing the North Shore wastewater treatment plant project and consulting with individuals with experience in major infrastructure projects and governance. I've not brought this motion forward lightly. I also want to recognize the significant work undertaken by Mayor Sager in advocating for a fairer distribution of North Shore wastewater treatment plant costs across all Metro Vancouver municipalities and for a single region-wide wastewater system similar to our regional water system. The mayor has dedicated considerable effort in advancing these issues and was instrumental in advocating for the independent review now underway at Metro Vancouver. I appreciate those efforts and believe they represent important steps toward greater accountability and a fairer regional approach. This motion proposes an additional layer of independent statutory oversight that would complement rather than replace or duplicate the independent review already initiated by Metro Vancouver. While the current review is an important step, a statutory inquiry provides powers not available through a non-statutory review, including the ability to compel evidence and testimony where necessary. Following an inquiry, the Inspector of Municipalities is required to report findings, representations, and recommendations to the Lieutenant Governor and Council, which may make an order that is binding on the regional district. This additional level of statutory oversight would further support transparency, accountability, and public confidence. Since our previous council meeting, I received Metro Vancouver's written responses to 16 questions I had submitted regarding the North Shore wastewater treatment project. While several questions were answered, others could not be addressed because the information is commercially sensitive or is expected to form part of Metro Vancouver's independent review. These responses provide new information relevant to council's consideration of this matter. In addition, on July 6, 2026, the City of North Vancouver and the District of North Vancouver each unanimously adopted resolutions requesting that the Inspector of Municipalities commence an inquiry under Section 765 of the Local Government Act. On July 13, 2026, the City of New Westminster also unanimously adopted a similar resolution. Given these recent developments and the upcoming summer recess, deferring consideration would delay West Vancouver's opportunity to participate in a timely regional request for an independent statutory inquiry. If council believes such an inquiry is warranted, I believe it is important that West Vancouver's voice be part of that discussion now rather than after the summer recess. I therefore respectfully request that council consider this motion as new business. And I also wanted to add in that Councillor Lambert has also undertaken considerable research and had considerable dialogue with myself and others in coming to this place where I'm putting this motion on the table. And I think, is it going up on the screen? Thank goodness. Shall I read it all?
No, you can.
I'll carry on.
No, it's fine.
Or
if
you want it as written?
As written, it's fine.
As written? Okay, I'd like to propose that the North Shore wastewater treatment plan request for a Section 765 independent or municipal inspector inquiry be read or be
Moved as written.
Moved as written. Sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue.
That's okay.
There's a lot.
Counselor Lambert, do you wish to second this? Okay, discussion. Counselor Thompson.
I have a couple of questions to start with. First of all, the request for a municipal independent inspector review, who is that directed to? Who would be who would be the approver of that inspection? Is it the province?
Sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Thompson. I didn't know if that was directed at
Oh,
me.
sorry, I'm out.
I imagine it would be the inspector of municipalities, but I'd have to confirm.
So it's basically a request being made to the province for this review. Am I correct?
Play through the municipal inspector.
Yeah. Okay, and then the other one, is there any costs associated with this request to the municipality of West Vancouver? Does anybody know?
I
Can't comment on that.
To our corporate officers, I looked to see whether I could find any example where the municipal inspector had actually done this under section 765. And no, I don't think there's ever been this has never been done. And I appreciate Councillor Watt's efforts in this regard. I do need to tell you, I've specifically asked the Premier directly whether the province would get involved. And he said to me in no uncertain terms, no. So we can ask, but province has already said they're not going to do it.
Requesting and adding our voice to other municipalities that are coming forward with similar requests, especially given our unique position with the two north bands where we're bearing the brunt. So I don't see any harm in that, given the multi-billion-dollar overages.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli.
So I guess my questions are, you've obviously done a lot of research here. How does this differ, or does it differ from what the two North Van municipalities are offering? Same. So, I mean, it's literally cutting and pasting their motions?
No, this is my motion.
Well,
I
I
haven't
mean-
cut and pasted theirs, but yes, it is the same process request.
I mean, I just want to be consistent, right? It makes
Yes.
sense to be consistent. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, their motions were not available on their website. I believe they were brought suddenly. So this basically requests exactly the same. You can read the words. It's all there on the screen.
Okay,
Same request.
okay. Okay.
Anything further, Councillor Gambioli? Councillor Snyder, please.
Okay, so I guess one question for Councillor Watt. How do you see this review differing than the review that is underway, the independent review that's being conducted through the independent inspector or advisor now that is addressing the Metro's concerns?
There's a profound difference because the municipal inspector can compel evidence. They can get past NDAs. I believe they can get past redacted documents, and people are responding under oath, and it is public and transparent.
Okay, so I just have sort of just a couple of concerns on, not really concerns. I mean, I fully appreciate the concerns that, you know, the impact that this matter is having on the North Shore residents, without a doubt. I mean, it's a huge impact, and it's going to be a huge impact for years to come. I guess I'm a little bit more concerned about spending the time and effort and money and resources going into trying to figure out who to point fingers at, which I think that is already become quite clear. Those that the fingers are going to be pointed at no longer exist, are no longer part of Metro, haven't made these decisions, and are not there. And I think that what's more important, and the most important thing, is that we make sure that these mistakes don't get made again in the future. And I think for me, that's a key factor, and that, you know, we need to learn from the mistakes that have been made at Metro. And that, I think, is really what the North Shore residents want to see as well. You know, that also being said, I think that that being said, again, pointing fingers, I think what's really important to our residents is how we move forward and how the impact. And this is where I want to give Mayor Sager a bunch of credit, because I know that his involvement with Metro and how hard he has been pushing at Metro with all of the different directors, that moving forward, there has been a lawsuit, there has been a an award that's been received. I know that right now there's discussions on how that reward or that award is going to be shared amongst Metro and the cost. And I know that our mayor is making some very profound efforts to try and make sure that the impact and the benefit to the North Shore residents is benefited significantly. I also think that moving forward, there are opportunities, and I think maybe the mayor can speak to some of these opportunities, that at least the best that he can, as far as working together with some of the other municipalities that have now come around to accept that, yeah, you know, we were probably wrong in the decisions we made to put this in the lap of North Shore residents. And I think that now they're starting to realize the mistakes in their ways. And I think that, you know, through a lot of hard work, the mayor has been spending hours and hours working with the different directors to try and persuade them for the benefit of the West Vancouver and all the North Shore residents. So for that reason, I just, you know, I get, you know, what's the harm in it? I guess there's probably not a lot of harm in a further request. I do concern, you know, again, money and costs and impact moving forward. So just my comments on the matter.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, please.
Unless, well, I was going to go into my comments unless you have questions.
Questions? I was going to make a comment.
Okay, so I'll start with my comments if we're moving into that. You know, I know every member of this council has spent a lot of time on this file, both together and separately. And, you know, the various industry experts that I've spoken with around this subject have assured me that it is in due process. It's moving along well in Metro the way it should be. You know, we were encouraged to support the legal process to its fruition, and we have. And I'm really happy to see the independent review coming forward through Metro. I also understand that the province has been approached 2, if not 3 times and rejected this proposition. So I'm not sure I have a lot of confidence that they will take it up. And then that I'm not convinced that the province is going to have any better insight or review of this than the people put in place right now. You know, we're just seeing time and time again, the way they approach things is from a very broad-based approach. But I have to say the one thing I feel is important is for the North Shore, it's important we band together. You know, we're a small but mighty group of people together, but not independently. And I think for our public, they need to be reassured that we are going to work on matters like this together and support each other. And our public wants to see that we are doing everything we possibly can. So if there isn't a true cost or setback to the district, I kind of feel it's something that we should go ahead and do. And it's no ill will through Metro. I think they're doing what they can. And I actually believe it's, even though it isn't as shiny and heroic to the people throwing out these motions, the work and the conversations happening behind the scenes are actually what is making the difference. Because we can throw all these motions out to the province and they could say, too bad, so sad, walk away. But at least we're trying. So I will support this evening, but not for the authentic reasons. I think it's going to make a massive difference.
Thank you, Councillor Gambio.
Well, you know, I'll
Is my
agree.
light on?
It was, I'm afraid.
Oh,
You were out of.
Oh.
It was Councillor.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you very much. I'm not so much interested in finger pointing as to the names, because I'm quite sure the names are long gone and their positions have been filled by somebody else. I'm much more interested in the process and in getting the process right, because we have other major infrastructure programs, projects coming forward as we densify throughout the Lower Mainland, and we all are going to be sharing in those various projects. One that's coming up once this treatment plant is completed is we have to bring back decommission the Lionsgate wastewater treatment plant. And that is going to be a big sum of money. So I want to be assured that the process is correct And the process is going to result in the best dollar value we can get. Because the very first mistake they made when they started this the wastewater treatment plant, North Shore, was accepting a bid $146 million lower than the next bid. From a less, I said lower. Lower is the same as less.
No, sorry, it's not what I heard, but anyway.
Okay, no,
it's
yes.
considerably below the next.
Actually, it was, okay, whatever, we won't argue over English language, but okay. And from one of the most litigious companies in the world, and they did it. So I just want to make sure, I will repeat myself, why not? The process is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gambioli, please.
Well, I won't add too much, but I think that, I don't know. I think that Councillor Snyder said that residents want to move forward, but I don't think they do, really. I think that, the feedback I get and that we are getting is that they want accountability and they want transparency. And many do not believe that that will happen through the Metro process. So I certainly don't think that, well, it doesn't hurt to ask, and the province may not take it up. But it certainly doesn't hurt to ask that they do it. And it doesn't cost us anything if the province is going to look at it. So I thank Councillor Watt for doggedly doing this research and bringing this back.
Thank you, Councillor Watt.
Yeah, and just back to the questions that I sent to Metro, that I did receive responses to them mid last week. And a lot of my questions, they revolved around the decision to terminate Acciona, which was a public-private partnership, and extremely rare to terminate a P3 project in that manner, like almost unheard of. But in doing that, it took the financial responsibility off the company, and in moving to a new company, it put it onto we, the public. And other questions were about the procurement process used to select a replacement contractor, the rationale for terminating the original contract during the COVID-19 pandemic while construction costs were escalating, the role of members of the independent advisory panel, and the project's governance terms of reference and cost escalation. And some of these, well, there were 16 questions, and some of them could not be responded to at all, and others will apparently come out during the independent review. Anyway, I did not enter into this lightly, and I do believe that we, by not doing it, and for whatever cost we could be thinking about when we start looking at billions of dollars in overages, I believe that if we band together and have a stronger voice, we have a better chance of ensuring that the mistakes of the past do not go forward in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Councillor Snyder.
And I would agree with all of those comments as well. And so I do understand the rationale and the reasoning behind it. I do, like Councillor Thompson, I'm not so sure that it's going to make a difference, but as you say, I'm not so sure there's a real harm. If I'm wrong and this is successful, then albeit, and I would hope that any further investigation will just complement and support whatever investigation is being done through Metro, the independent Metro investigation. So, I'm not so sure if there's no cost and there's no negative. I am going to, again, continue to support the mayor and his efforts moving forward in dealing with the other directors at Metro to try and persuade them that a fair resolution can be made. But again, like you said, if there's no harm in asking, then fair enough.
Thank you. Just for the benefit of members of the public who might not have ever even been to a Metro meeting or understand really the complexities of the voting structure, we in West Vancouver have 3 votes out of about 125 votes that are required on any action within the board. And so the most important thing is winning over other communities to our position. And what occurred with the wastewater treatment plant was a decision, well, it started in 2005, and many of the decisions that took place because there are 4 independent sewage districts. That's completely the opposite of our water system, which is world class. We have one water system. We share the costs around the entire region. And sure, it costs more money to ship water to White Rock than it does to West Vancouver, but it is because we share all of those costs that we have some of the finest water filtration systems in the world. So we have a system that proves it can work when all of the communities in Metro Vancouver band together. And the fundamental problem in having 4 independent sewage districts, which are all in place to do one thing. And the one thing we've got to all remember, it's to protect the receiving waters. And it doesn't matter if you live in West Vancouver or White Rock. We're doing this to protect the fish, the habitat, our swimming beaches, and the water that surrounds us. And that's a shared responsibility with everyone in Metro Vancouver, in my opinion. And so my efforts are to amend the formula and so that costs are shared more equally. All we needed to have this completely fair was $40 per household out of everybody in Metro Vancouver. We had a vote. Unfortunately, we did not have enough votes to get that. We got $10 per household, but that isn't the end of it. I have the honor of serving on the governance committee of Metro Vancouver, and we are bringing a motion forward, which passed unanimously at our last governance committee, to start the process to go to a single sewage district in 2027. Now, that's not going to happen unless we can get more than half of the votes at the Metro Board, and then it will require the province to be involved to amend the formula, because Metro is set up by the province. In fact, the whole bidding process back in 2013, the way the contracts were bid was because of the requirements of the province and the federal government. They insisted that the contracts go out in their P3 form, which was the flavor of the day back then. And so, you know, you could point your finger at the person that sat at this seat in 2013 and say, why didn't you recognize that there was a huge difference between the first and second bidders? It's all history now. And I know those people who make a living out of criticizing everything that ever happens want to point fingers. It's not going to do any good. What will help is if we can find support around the Metro table to amend the formula and get everybody around Metro Vancouver to see that they have a responsibility in protecting the receiving waters. So we have a motion coming forward this Friday at the Metro Board. One of the motions is to establish a permanent board of experts on major projects like this, so that the kind of mistake that happened in 2013 won't happen again. That's a safeguard. That's one. The second is to bring forward a motion to begin the efforts to consolidate to a single sewage district. That's two. The other one that is equally important, and it's going to be a tough vote on Friday, I expect, is how to allocate the profit, or not the profit, but well, it is a bit, how to allocate the funds received out of the most recent settlement. And of course, my position is shared by our colleagues in North Van City and District, is that those funds should offset the costs of the North Shore wastewater treatment plant. It's a board decision. But this is a bit of the irony. The 3 North Shore municipalities, we don't have enough votes to win that. So if you hear anybody say, I'm going to crusade and I'm going to fix all of this, well, good luck, because it takes a whole bunch of votes and people working together to win that over. And I am hoping, I know that the chair of Metro Vancouver, Mike Hurley, is supporting he is making a recommendation to the board. I hope this holds on Friday, that the funds from the settlement out of Acciona will go to offset our costs. That'll help a lot. So there are efforts to fix this. So, you know, Councillor Watt, there's no harm in asking the province. Honestly, I don't think they're going to do it. That's why I moved to set up an independent inquiry, because that's something at least we can get the public some degree of confidence. And sure, I am certain there will be people that will continue to criticize. That's what people like to do. But at least we have some process in place, because if the province doesn't do it and we hadn't set up an independent inquiry, then the public would never know. So anyway, I appreciate the motion. I think we should call the question unless there's any further discussion. Councillor Watt.
I just wanted to fully acknowledge your efforts, and I was at the meeting that Mayor Sager refers to, where the vote around the table for the allocation of costs went from $40 a head, and it was like a reverse auction. And Mayor Sager has worked tirelessly at a metro level to make friends and to also put forward the independent inquiry and looking for equality at the table, and of course, a single wastewater region. And I truly appreciate those efforts. I know you have worked like a dog on this and continue to.
Well, I
So
must admit, I had no idea when I offered myself and ran for this post 4 years ago that I would spend so much of my life dealing with that kind of thing.
yeah.
So put your own words to it.
So I just view this as an added layer to the independent inquiry.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary, the motion carries. And we'll move now to the consent agenda item. Councillor Lambert.
Mayor
please.
Sager, I apologize for the interruption. We do have one member of the public that has signed up to speak to the consent agenda.
Ooh. Can we take a motion on a consent agenda?
Consent agenda items under consent agenda and reports, the public may comment, and
Okay.
public question period. The other parts not. but this
Certainly.
is-
Happy to have, if that's okay.
Hey, Joseph Spears.
Mr. Spears.
Thank you. This has been a very interesting mayor council. This has been a very interesting session. We're talking a couple of $1 billion here. And I recognize the mayor's efforts in Metro. But the reality is, I think we need to look at this and the future. We had a great discussion. I've been a resident of Horseshoe Bay for over 30 years. I had my business there for 25 years. I've looked at complex cases, and I really think we need to stand back a bit. And Councillor Snyder has talked about this being a teaching moment. I think we need to look at what happened and how we recover those $1 billion that the cost overrun.
Mayor Sager, sorry to interrupt.
Dick.
Mr. Spears is to be speaking to the consent agenda items. This is not public questions and comments quite
Yeah,
yet.
sir, I think you want to speak at the end at the public question period.
That's right. But I want to just raise the point that there's a number of options here and everyone's troubled by this.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
But you have to speak, we can only ask you if you want to speak to the consent, anything on the consent agenda?
Yeah, the consent agenda is the motion.
No,
Councillor.
no, sir. No,
Oh, no.
no.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
What you want to speak to, it will come next.
I was going to talk about something completely different, but you.
Well, then it has to come up, it has to come up at the public question part.
Thank you.
Mr. Spears,
Okay.
you've listed two items for comment. One is the consent agenda and one is the public questions and comments
Well,
period.
It sounds to me like it's most appropriate in the public question and comment period. Again, on the consent agenda, really not usually any debate. Councillor Lambert, did you wish to make the motion?
Yes. Yeah, so I recommend that the consent agenda items as written be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Thank you. Any discussion, question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much. Okay, we have some other business, and that is the recommendations from our Finance and Revenue Committee. Councillor Cassidy, please.
I recommend that the staff engage with British Pacific Properties appeal to the BC Property Assessment Appeal Board of the Cypress Village Assessment sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Recommend that staff engage with British Pacific Properties Appeal to the BC Property Assessment Appeal Board of the Cypress Village Assessment. That's it.
Okay, that's good. Councillor Watt.
Yes, but I have to wait.
Seconded. Any discussion? Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. The next recommendation, Councillor Cassidy, please.
Okay, the sponsorships, partnerships and naming rights policy 0061 and sponsorships, partnerships and naming rights procedure 0187 be referred to the Finance and Revenue Advisory Committee for review and comment.
Thank you. Councillor Watt. Any discussion? Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. And the next is a fairly long motion.
Would you like to, as written?
As written. Moved as written. And this is our Finance and Revenue Committee are exploring the feasibility of establishing an innovation center in our community. It's really kind of a clever idea. It would take a lot of work, but worth investigation, I think. Councillor Watt? Thank you. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much. Council Remuneration and Expense Policy, Councillor Cassidy, please.
And did you want me to read them all or just as
written. is
as
fine.
written, as written?
It's really just to provide direction to staff to answer the questions that the Finance and Revenue Committee have. As written. Councillor Watt, will you second the motion? Thank you. Any discussion, question? Oh, sorry.
Just related to, who's supposed to be doing this? Which staff is supposed to be doing this?
Oh, it's our
We don't have
director.
staff.
Director of Finance has been responding to the questions.
No, but I mean that, we're asking staff to, do research, explore the feasibility of establishing an innovation center and provide information on the current financial implications for Horseshoe Bay, et cetera. Who do we, we have these staff?
Mr. Manager,
Like,
please.
it's a lot of requests for staff time that I didn't think that staff, were kind of twiddling their thumbs or anything. So who's going to do all this work?
Oh, thank you. And through the mayor, certainly regarding FRAC, the Director of Finance is responding to these requests. And I understand that his team is doing so without issue. As well, regarding the memorandum or the council remuneration and expenses policy, that's being responded by HR, and staff is responding adequately.
Staff can manage it. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. Nope. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thanks very much. Do we have any reports from members of council? Again, we started with I started the meeting talking about the change of command and what a wonderful, wonderful ceremony that was. No, there was a Chamber of Commerce meeting. You could talk about it. I was just there speaking.
I just wanted to state that the Chamber of Commerce has come back to life, and they seem to be doing an extremely good job of breathing energy into themselves. And on Monday night, they asked that the mayor come forward and address themselves and other members of the community. It was extremely well attended, and the mayor did a very good job, and it was overall a delightful occasion.
It was nice to see the camaraderie in the room.
Yes.
Amongst people in our business community.
Yes.
Yeah, so we thank those people involved. And any other reports? I feel like there's a lot more going on. Oh, can I just say, this is a personal moment, but on Sunday, I attended the Opera in the Park at Deer Lake. And it was pretty special for me because our daughter Michaela was the performer, one of the soloists with the Vancouver Opera. And Mayor Mike Hurley was there. There were about 10,000 people, incredibly well attended. And Mayor Hurley said, we have the most beautiful performance space And if you haven't been there, it really is spectacular. Deer Lake Park. It was incredibly well attended. It was a very, very special moment. Sorry, that's a personal note, but if you get a chance to go to Deer Lake, it's really, really great. Okay, I know enough. Can I have a motion to receive the reports, please, Councillor Lambert?
Recommend that the oral reports from the mayor and councillors be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder. Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. And members of the public, questions, and I think we have a few people signed up.
We have Mayor Sager. Thank you. We have three names on the list. The first is Bryce Kelpin, followed by Eva Jarvis, who I assume wanted to speak with public questions, and then Mr. Spears. And a fourth name, pardon me, Kirk Lapointe.
Thanks
So
very
Bryce
much.
Kelpin.
Mr. Kelpin, Dr. Kelpin, thanks for being here this evening. And all members of council have received your correspondence and, oh, sorry. Is this new? Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'll be 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I hope you'll indulge me for the extra 20.
We'll give you the extra 20.
My name is Dr. Bryce Kelpin, and my wife Morag Kelpin and I have lived at 5726 Cranley Drive for 25 years now. We've been West Vancouver residents for many decades, 51 years in my case and 63 for my wife. Our property borders the Daffodil Drive or Aquila subdivision. Before outlining our concerns, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Mayor Sager for the time he's recently devoted to understanding this matter and for his efforts to help facilitate a resolution to this issue that I'm experiencing. We are here because after more than 18 months of trying to resolve an issue through the normal administrative process, we've reached the point where we need council's assistance. Our home has received electrical service from the rear of our property for approximately 65 years through a BC Hydro right-of-way that now forms part of the Aquila development. Because the subdivision requires underground electrical servicing, our existing electrical connection must be relocated. We have never disputed that. Our concern is who should bear the cost of relocating infrastructure that only has to move because of this subdivision. Our understanding of the district subdivision servicing requirements together with BC Hydro's underground residential development program is that these costs should form part of the developer's servicing obligations. Instead, we have been left without a permanent electrical connection, operating on temporary 100-amp service, unable to close our own building permit, and we've incurred more than $40,000 in costs trying to resolve a problem that was created by the subdivision. Over the past 18 months, we have worked with BC Hydro, the developer, and district staff. We have written detailed letters, attended meetings, retained professional consultants and legal counsel, and repeatedly sought clarification regarding the development plan and the application of the district's bylaws. Unfortunately, despite these efforts, we have not received a clear explanation as to why the approved development plan has not been amended to address our existing electrical service or why the applicable servicing requirements have not been enforced. We are not asking council to resolve a private dispute between neighbors. We are asking council to ensure that the district's own development plan is accurate and that the bylaws governing subdivision servicing are applied fairly and consistently. This is about confidence in the development approval process. As redevelopment continues throughout West Vancouver, and we've spoken about that tonight, residents need to know that approved servicing plans will be administered consistently and that neighboring property owners will not be left to absorb costs created by new developments. Our request is straightforward. Our electrical service has existed for 65 years. The subdivision requires it to be moved. We agree it has to be moved. The only question is whether the cost of moving infrastructure required by the subdivision belongs to the developer under the district servicing requirements. We are asking council to ensure its own development plan and bylaws answer that question properly. We respectfully ask council to direct staff to review the Daffodil Drive development plan and correct the inaccuracies in that document. We further respectfully ask council to direct staff to apply the applicable subdivision servicing bylaws and ensure that those bylaws are enforced before this matter proceeds further. We have provided supporting documentation to each member of the council, which Mayor Sager has acknowledged, which clearly indicates the omissions of the development plan and the applicable bylaws which are not being enforced by the district. We would appreciate your careful consideration of these items. I will leave you with two questions to ponder. If the district's own servicing bylaws do not apply in circumstances like these, then when do they apply? If we were a 95-year-old elderly couple, would you believe that this is the way this process should and would have gone? I don't think so. We respectfully ask council to review this matter and ensure those bylaws are administered fairly and consistently. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Kelpin. As you know, because we've spoken a number of times about this, I am very sympathetic to your plight, and I'm sorry that you have had to spend as much time as you have trying to get this addressed. I did call the president of BC Hydro on Friday last week, and I must admit I was impressed at the speed in which I got a return. It was under an hour, and then she appointed somebody to work with our staff and get to the bottom of this issue and figure out how it's happened and how to fix it. And I think that's all we'll be able to say for tonight, but I do want you to know that
If I had the opportunity to just comment on that.
certainly.
I appreciate that BC Hydro has made, after a great deal of effort on our part, to force them. It took me $8,000 of consultant fees with an electrical consultant to force them to finally acknowledge and get the developer, I'm assuming, although they won't tell me who's paying, to do the front part of our property. But they will not deal with the private access that has to go through our property, which is about a $35,000 cost. I think the problem that BC Hydro and I both have is that I can't take the developer to court to make him pay for these things because he's not doing anything wrong. Nobody from the municipality is saying he's doing something wrong. The issue is with the municipality. We are being forced into a conflict with the municipality we don't want. We simply want this developer to assume the costs of what he should be doing. And the problem is because the building department here will not enforce their own bylaws.
Okay.
And it's clear in my presentation there that I've given to everybody that I think that there is no good reason for that other than a personal reason. And I do not think that's right. And the residents of West Vancouver need to know that when these developments go forward, we warned about this guy and everybody voted this thing to go forward. If there isn't appropriate ways to make these developers comply with bylaws, then the rest of the residents are going to be in a similar situation as us, and there'll be a lot more of these.
Dr. Kelpin, I completely agree with your concerns. And I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I've got to just tell you, one of the things that's interesting is that how BC Hydro for 65 years provided electrical service to your home without a proper right of way. So BC Hydro have a bit of an issue as well.
They do, but at law, it's a prescriptive
Yes.
easement that exists because of that.
No, I understand that, but it's still a bit of a unique situation.
It is.
But, I will continue to liaise with you until we get this resolved.
And I think my ask of the council is pretty clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, please.
Eva Jarvis.
Ms. Jarvis, thanks so much for coming this evening, and thanks for all of your volunteer efforts in our community. I bet you're going to talk about the Legion.
Yes. Well, I'll start. Good evening, Mayor Sager and members of council. My name is Eva Jarvis, and I'm here on behalf of the Memorial Crosswalk Committee. Our goal is to create a permanent, meaningful tribute honoring the service and sacrifice of our veterans, one that reflects West Vancouver's long tradition of remembrance and aligns our community with the many municipalities across British Columbia and Canada that have already installed memorial crosswalks to mark the Legion's 100th anniversary. I ask of you now to commit tonight to opening an account this week so pledged funds can be consolidated, therefore ensuring the commitment to installing the memorial crosswalk by Remembrance Day 2026. Over the past several months, our committee has worked closely with district staff to understand the process, refine our proposal, and gather the support needed. British Pacific Properties has generously pledged $1,000, and several additional donors are ready to contribute once the district confirms its support. We have also identified an artist on Vancouver Island who can provide a professional template at a significantly lower cost than originally anticipated, therefore making this project both feasible and financially responsible. This year is especially meaningful for our community. It's West Vancouver Legion Branch number 60's 100th anniversary, West Vancouver Memorial Library's 75th anniversary, and West Van's very own cadet squadron, the 525 Pathfinder Air Cadets, 75th anniversary. A memorial crosswalk installed this year's Remembrance Day would be a heartfelt tribute to the men and women who have defended our freedoms and a visible reminder of our community's commitment to honoring them. Tonight, we are simply asking for a partnership. With council's support and guidance, we believe the remaining steps can be completed smoothly and in time for November. Our committee is ready to collaborate, provide any additional information needed, and work closely with staff to ensure the crosswalk meets all standards and expectations. I thank you for your time, your consideration, and your dedication to the people and history of West Vancouver.
Thanks very much. Councillor Gambioli.
Just wanted to add that, you know, personally, I love this idea. I would suggest staff may want to correct me though. If there's a way to donate money, I think it's probably better not through the district, but through the foundation. Because through the foundation.
If I could answer that,
Okay.
we have, actually, after having extensive discussions with the West Van Police Department, when they were getting ready to install a Pride crosswalk, they mentioned that we would have to have an account with the West Van Foundation so that various charities in West Van could donate. And we looked into it. But first of all, you need to have a registered charity number, which the Memorial Crosswalk Committee does not. And the starting costs and maintenance costs are unfortunately too high at this time. I actually spoke with Jeff Jobson of Navi Jack House, and he said after presenting to council back at that time, the district opened an account with the West Van Foundation for them, and then money was able to be put in after that.
Okay, well, maybe that's the avenue, because I don't want to discourage you from raising funds. But I know that through the foundation, you can also apply for grants, which the district can't do on its own. So there's a benefit to having your money at the foundation. And I would just say the last thing is that, you know, having worked here for almost 15 years, government works very slowly. So we need you to temper your expectations. I know that you're excited because of these anniversaries, but I will tell you, I don't believe this is possible to do before Remembrance Day. And I'll tell you for several reasons, because government works slow, because we have engineers that have to check everything, and also because you can't paint crosswalks after about the end of September.
No, I understand that.
Anyway, I'm just saying, temper your expectations. I would love to see it happen, but I don't see how there's any way it's going to happen this year.
If I have a few minutes, we spoke with Qualicum Beach on Vancouver Island, and there's various urban and remote communities around BC who got the process, in some cases, like with Qualicum Beach, they started it in January. And council and mayor got behind it, and they are all set to get it installed by early September for their Remembrance Day, since their Legion is also 100 this year. So it all depends, I think, on priorities. And so tonight, again, I just ask for your support.
Okay. Councillor Watt.
So what is the budget for this?
The budget, we've looked at a variety of proposals and talked to different contractors. I'd say the maximum highest it could go is 20,000. Of course, that's dependent on location and who does it. Also, for instance, the design is included in that cost. So while one business we spoke to would have to send off to North Carolina to get the design, as I mentioned, there's an artist on Vancouver Island who's already done a template for multiple communities, the template that was handed around, and they got it for $400. It possibly could be lower since the template's already there. We just have to procure it.
And how long would it last before it required maintenance?
Well, Richmond, the District of Richmond installed one last year, And as of currently, it's still in very good condition. I also might speak to the condition of the Pride sidewalk, which I believe was installed about 3 years ago. It's still in very good condition. Various communities have thought it good to put in like a maintenance fund, which could be held either by the district or, for instance, by the Legion. So there would be like an annual fund drive every year. And the maximum, Richmond sent their maintenance fund at $3,200 per year. They haven't had to draw on it yet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, please.
So one of the things, and thank you very much for all your hard work, and this definitely is a very noble cause. One of the issues is when the district decides to accept a donation of an entity, shall we say, and I'll call this an entity. There's an expectation, obviously, that we're going to maintain it. And I would be hoping that in addition to raising the funds for the sidewalk itself, crosswalk itself, that there also be a stipulation that it be maintained by yourselves.
I think that's the plan, as I said, like, so different communities have different plans of who they want to be responsible for it. The Legion would be more than happy to take on the responsibility going forward. Again, there would have to be a place to hold the money for the fund that would then be submitted to the district. Different, like Richmond, the district holds the fund. So it kind of all depends on what plan could be discussed. As I said, the Legion is right now very happy to commit to holding the fund.
Okay, because given the significance of this crosswalk, I would hate to see it fall into any semblance of disrepair, because I see disrepair as disrespect, and I wouldn't want to see us have that happen. Thank you.
May I just ask, would you and the Legion, and you and I have talked about this before, but would you be happy with the location of this parallel to Marine Drive at 18th, where the Legion is? So it would identify where the Legion is located in our community?
I think so far, community support, I've actually run a few polls on the social media app Nextdoor, and many residents feel that it would be best there since it's, you know, close to the Legion, indicates the Legion, and it's called Veterans Way. I think, you know, again, once the process was approved, we could put it to another community poll to again check. I think that's the best place. Other people have felt it would be good on Marine Drive, the entrance to Memorial Park, but that's a probably higher cost. And of course, you'd have to close down a major thoroughfare for traffic. So it would be more complicated.
And the ongoing maintenance would be significantly higher, I would think. Maybe I could just ask without a formal vote on this because it's not the right time, but if members of council would accept that, then I think we could try and help and see how we facilitate this in the next month or so. If it is in that location, just informally, how does everyone feel? Like a straw poll. Straw poll.
Support something like that.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
We
just had our straw.
have a
poll.
question.
Yes, Councillor Watt.
So are we voting to set up a fund to bring the money in or to adopt the costs? Or is that to
No, it's-
instruct staff
it's-
to move quickly
It's
to get this going?
It's just to
Yeah.
say there's support around the table.
Oh,
And then we've got to
100%
figure out how to
support
make
the
it
idea.
happen. You know, I personally have set up a foundation at the West Van Foundation, so I'm a little surprised that they're making that difficult, but okay. But the straw poll says members of council like the idea. So that's what we can do for tonight. And I've got to move now to the next item, or the next person. And I
Thank
think
you so
that's
much.
Mr. Spears.
Okay.
former councillor Soprovich, you can't get up and leave before the meeting. Mr. Spears. See you, my friend.
Sager and the council, you've done an outstanding job in the 4 years since I've left.
Mayor and council, sorry for the confusion earlier. I thought I was
No
speaking
problem.
for the sewer, the $3 billion overage. Talking tonight about the delegation request that was denied, and I asked the legislative officer why it was denied, and she advised because there's pending litigation. Tonight, we've listened to issues around Metro and transparency and due process. And in this case, you've issued and the building bylaw of the province, the need for social housing, the nature of the community, the unique nature of West Vancouver, why we all live here and why we're all sitting here tonight. Beautiful summer's evening, because we care about the place. One of the things I care about as a council of almost 40 years experience, I've retired, but I do other work in governance, is process. I heard the mayor talk about process with Metro. I heard all the councillors express the same issue in different ways. I even heard engineers should be taken seriously on the sidewalk. So council's made a decision and they have the ability to rescind it. And all the courts do is rescind or review the decision made. There's evidence out there that shows that this structure is structurally sound, that there is evidence that was not before council and was not before the court. And
Mr.
all I'm
Sager, sorry,
asking you,
may I interrupt? Just a moment. Council's procedure bylaw prohibits public comment on a matter that's before the courts or which the district has engaged in legal counsel.
Is there some way you could make your point, sir, without talking about the specific litigation?
perfect, I'm going to talk about process. The council has an ongoing obligation, and we talked about this, and you've got all my submissions, 4 or 5 different things earlier today or last week, because I feel strongly about this, because it comes back to trust and transparency. And we heard conversations around the province imposing a regulatory regime on planning, and there's ways around that. And as a decision maker, as elected officials, you have an obligation to look at things with fresh eyes. It's an ongoing issue. And so when new evidence or new things come up, you have an obligation to look at that. And the courts will assist in bringing that to your attention. And I'm asking council and my delegation request, because I'm just asking for the request because it's been denied, to say, take a few minutes and we'll speak about this, because I don't think the legislative officer is quite correct when she says just because there's litigation, there's not a blanket issue. Just like we saw with the province, with the inspector of the municipalities. He has an obligation. There's all kinds of processes. There's a criminal case looking at the contractor.
That's your time, sir.
There's also other claims. And so I urge the court, I urge the council to look at this very seriously, because there is other mechanisms, and I really would prefer to move forward on other issues.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Thank you. And the last speaker, I believe, is Mr. Lapointe.
I'm afraid not.
Nope.
There are more speakers after
Oh,
that. We
there
do
you
have
go.
Mr. Lapointe and then 4 names following.
Mr. Lapointe, thanks
Dr.
for joining
Lapointe.
us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kirk Lapointe, a resident of West Vancouver. For years, West Vancouver taxpayers have watched the cost of the North Shore wastewater treatment plant spiral from hundreds of millions of dollars to $4 billion, not including the decommissioning of the existing plant. Throughout that time, residents have asked a simple question: who is going to find out what happened? Now, at the 11th hour of this council's term, we're brought forward a motion supporting a stronger inquiry under Section 765 of the Local Government Act. We've seen a lot of late attempts to repair mistakes as part of a general movement of make goods, clawbacks, and repentance we often see as an election beckons. So this fits the cliche. The question isn't whether a more vigilant inquiry is the right idea. It is. The question is, why is the motion only come now. If a Section 765 inquiry is necessary today, it was necessary long ago. There have not been substantial changes on this issue. If the facts justified an independent provincial investigation now, they justified one when the costs first exploded, when the independent review was halted, when litigation was settled, and when taxpayers were pleading for answers. Our community did not hear sufficiently from this council, nor, because it was added to new business tonight, the public was not provided adequate notice to participate in a discussion on this. Leadership isn't measured by the motions you pass on your way into a campaign. It's measured by the actions you take when they are difficult, when they're unpopular, and when your back is not to the wall, and when they matter most. This council has had repeated opportunities to insist on a truly independent investigation. Instead, West Vancouver often followed rather than led. It accepted assurances when it should have demanded evidence. It waited when it should have acted. It told us to move on, to accept that the more important thing was not to understand what occurred, but that it may not happen again. I welcome any genuine effort to achieve accountability. The taxpayers deserve nothing less. But accountability delayed is accountability diminished, and that is the case today. The people of West Vancouver aren't looking for a symbolic resolution in the final days of a council term. They were looking for leadership that asked hard questions at the right time, not simply when the political winds intersect with the timing of an election. Our community has paid dearly for this project and will for 3 decades. It deserves more than a late conversion to transparency. It deserves elected officials who make accountability a principle from the beginning, not a resolution at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lapointe.
The next name on the list is Alexis Chicoine, followed by Maureen O'Brien.
Thank you. Mr. Coyne, nice to see you this evening. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a long night so far. Being dramatic and throwing my phone around. I wanted to address the motion that initially was on the floor about campaign signs. I think it's important just to talk about a little bit. The motion about banning the signs on public property asked council to balance 2 important public interests: protecting our public spaces and ensuring fair, accessible local elections. And I believe we can do both. To me, the key issue that was crossing my mind when this was on the table, what problem are we trying to solve with that motion, and how significant is it? West Vancouver already has an election sign bylaw that addresses many of the concerns that were raised in the motion, including safety, placement, and the timely removal of signs. Before ever replacing it with a complete ban, I think it should first be determined whether the current bylaw is failing, and if so, why? How many complaints were received? This was mentioned in the motion. Were there enforcement costs, and were there documented safety concerns? If there is a problem, then let's fix those. Not prohibit election signs altogether. Municipal elections are different from provincial and federal. Candidates don't have political parties behind them. Many are first-time candidates with limited budgets and very little name recognition. I was one of those 4 years ago. I've experienced how difficult it is for a new candidate to build name recognition. Election signs don't eliminate the advantage incumbents have, but they do provide one of the few affordable ways to help close that gap. There's a more balanced approach. Yes, West Van did look into this in 2019. There are some really interesting ideas there. Today, municipalities like Coquitlam demonstrate what that kind of balanced approach can look like. They continue to allow election signs on public property, but with clear rules, with reduced clutter and improved fairness. So for a future consideration of this council, if it comes back up or next, I think the beginning is to consider this as a discussion, not as a yes or no issue of should we have or not. I encourage that council to ask staff to explore practical alternatives, such as reasonable limits on the number of signs and lessen environmental impacts while preserving fairness for all candidates. That approach reflects good environmental stewardship while also supporting an open, accessible, and fair democratic process. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And Ms. O'Brien? Thanks for joining us this evening.
Me?
Are you going to be the last speaker before the summer break?
I was trying to be, but I don't think I am. I like to. So first of all, I want to thank Communications and Engineering for their assistance in the BIA getting signs up on Bellevue to encourage people to leave the parking for people shopping in our businesses. Those are signs that the BIA purchased and worked with your communications department on the wording, and your engineering department installed them. So that's teamwork. My concern tonight, our concern tonight, is the 90 minutes free in Ambleside Park and the fact that it's only one method that works. I did hear back from staff, and they said that that's the majority method that people use, but majority doesn't mean everybody. So there are still people who go there and want to use the QR code or use the meters, and they don't get the 90 minutes free. So how do we fix that? Because it's not fair, and I don't believe it's what this council intended to do. So is there any hope in fixing that, particularly before Harmony Arts starts? Because Argyle is closed as of Saturday, and that's going to, as we all know, every year impact our businesses.
Yes. Mr. Manager, any thoughts on that? I know we're frustrated as well. I know members of council are frustrated that Impark doesn't seem to have the technology to do more than one way, but
Thank you. No, thank you. I'm not prepared to open up the report that was given. I don't have it with me right now. I can certainly go back to engineering and the team that is involved in the implementation, and they can update council as soon as possible, being that it's the last council meeting of the summer. They can respond to you via email.
And Ms. O'Brien, I can follow up with you tomorrow. I'm as frustrated, excuse me, as frustrated as you are with the rollout.
It would also be nice for Impark to have better signage. The signs that are there are very, very small, hard to read, easy to miss, and there should be some signage on the massive sign that Impark is so proud of when you enter Ambleside Park. Aesthetically, that sign, I think, should be gone. It's a beautiful park, and when the first thing you see is that 12-foot sign, it's not very pretty. But something on that lets people know, if you want the 90 minutes free, you have to download the Pay by Phone app.
Thank you. I completely agree.
One last thing, Dundrave Hoedown is on August 28th. So hope you all have that in your calendars.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. And remember, we have the Harmony Arts Festival.
Harmony Arts starts, yes, on the
August 1st.
Yeah, August 1st, but
So
Dundrave Hoedown,
hope
Pony
to see
Ride.
you all there.
Yeah.
And I would like to thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
O'Brien.
Have a good summer.
Thank you.
Harmony Arts starts July 30th.
You're right, July 31st. I would like to thank all members of council. Oh, sorry, is there more?
A few more names on the list, Mayor Sager. We've got Jatinder Sidhu, followed by Payam Mogadam. And just so you know, Kirk LaPointe put his name down again. The procedure bylaw does not allow a person to speak more than once per agenda item, but he did put his name on the list again. The next one on here is Jatinder Sidhu.
Thank you, Mr. Sidhu. Thanks for joining us this evening. And you'll forgive Councillor Gambioli. I know your friends. She's got to go for personal reasons.
Yes, thank you very much. Jatinder Sidhu, resident of West Vancouver. I also work for Jeremy Valerius MLA. I run his constituency affairs. I was a little puzzled that having deferred, this is on item 7, deferred the permissive tax exemption by law last month, or earlier this month, I should say, 2 weeks ago. It came back and it was unchanged, despite what I think anybody who heard her speak, Marilyn, gave a very clear and I thought convincing explanation as to why there may have been some kind of misunderstanding. The substance of this is that Marilyn is the CEO of a charity, the Paul Sugar Foundation, and I emailed you all. I was not aware it was coming back until late today, so I apologize for the lateness of that email. But just to reiterate, the foundation does important work, charitable work. Marilyn came to us as a constituency office for assistance for a particular client, a particular family, and we did what we do, which is reach out to the province, to the relevant ministry, and look for supports for that family that was suffering a double whammy of a very serious cancer diagnosis and very, very significant sudden financial hardship. So we saw firsthand the work that Marilyn does. It is charitable work, and I think for that reason, I'm somewhat puzzled that you've passed the item on the agenda without any amendment.
There is, Mr. Sadhu, council does have the opportunity before, as long as it is done before October, the end of October, to amend the bylaw. There is information that there is further discussion that needs to take place between either myself or staff and the foundation. And
Okay.
I do plan on speaking with them.
Okay.
It's the Paul Sugar Foundation is an important foundation in our community. We're very grateful for their work.
Okay, well, that's wonderful to hear. That is it. I had some comments about the sign by law, but that's ancient history now. I mean, you know, Councillor Thompson has reiterated that it's for the next election. Of course, the motion never mentioned a date at all, which is somewhat puzzling.
It is important for members of the public to know that the intent of the motion was for the elections starting in 2030. I must admit, my heart almost stopped because I've got a sign order in, and it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah, so speaking as a former campaign manager in the provincial election in 2024, I can tell you that signs are important. And as the campaign manager for the BC Green candidate, the third party candidate, it was extremely important to have the opportunity to put his name out there. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the last speaker is
Payam Mogadam. I apologize for any mispronunciation.
Did we get it right, sir?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. I was going to talk to the police department about the awful experience I had yesterday, but they were closed. So I saw the opportunity to talk to the council about it. So thank you very much for hearing me. My son had a little tree that he planted, and I just planted somewhere in a wild, a planted tree. And my wife was thinking about having some rocks around the tree. Yesterday, I was with my wife in West Vancouver, right exactly where the winner is. And I told her, okay, if you want a rock, I can just grab it from the river down where the river is. I went there and just take 3 rocks, river rocks, and come up. It was difficult because it was kind of like a little bit of work I had to do. And I put it on a sidewalk to bring my car to take it. And the police officer arrested me for the theft and stealing. I said, he came very aggressively and said, you are going to be detained for stealing and theft. And I said, I was so shocked. I said, what's happening? And my wife was with me, start shaking, and he said, cool down, cool down. I said, what I did do? And he said, where you been? He said, I was just taking 3 rocks from the river. He said, you're not allowed to. That's a Squamish land. I said, okay, I didn't know it was a Squamish land. He said, anything you're taking from Squamish land is considered as a theft, as a stealing. And he made it so big that my wife was almost end up being in a hospital for a panic attack. And she couldn't go to work today. because of that. I educated myself later on. I go and just search and say, yes, you cannot take anything from Squamish land.
I don't think you can actually take river rocks anywhere.
I didn't know
Yeah.
either.
Well, this is a good advertisement for anybody thinking about going to a river and taking a river rock.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, and honestly, I educated myself. I'm a resident of North Vancouver for 33 years. I never knew such a thing. It's good that I educated myself, but I don't think I'm going to be the first person this happened to him. And my wife didn't have a good experience. I didn't have a good experience. So there is no sign on that area that you're not allowed to take anything. Or, I mean, whatever the law is, I don't think anybody think if taking a rock from the river is a stealing or is a like criminal. So I'm just sharing my experience. I don't know if there is anything, any signs or anything maybe they can do, put it there, nobody going there, or there is no gates, there is nothing. People go on the river, just there. But anyway, it was awful experience for me, honestly. My wife was shaking like a dog. And it was just, I said, I just tried to just calm her down. And I had to give her medications and like call the doctors and everything. So
Well, I'm sorry, sir, that you've had this experience from what was probably a most innocent encounter. And I'll talk to the new chief of police and also our friends at the Squamish Nation about whether there's some way they can remind people that river rocks can't be touched. But
I mean, at least officer could kind of approach a little bit of more educational kind of thing instead of coming straight as I'm going to detain you for stealing or something. I mean, that's awful. Like,
okay, and also Councillor Cassidy sits on the police board and she'll certainly carry your message to the next board
I'm
meeting.
working with North Vancouver RCMP. I'm a volunteer as a block watch captain.
Well, there you go.
I've been there for I volunteer for many years, over 20 years with them. I had an awful experience. So anyway, I really appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for coming this evening.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate
I
it.
hope your wife feels better. Good.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, you want to make a motion to adjourn? No, that was it. And every member of the public is given the opportunity to speak, but just once. That is the bylaw.
All right, I recommend the July 20th, 2026 regular council meeting be adjourned.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Snyder? Oh, no, sorry, it was Councillor Watt. Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion's carried. Have a great summer, everyone. Thanks for being here this evening.